All right, we will now convene to open session. The board would like to remind the public that this meeting is being audio and video recorded and is also available via live stream. The live stream link can be found on the front page of the RUSD website. Now, I did start 1 minute early so that I can acknowledge the fact that before this meeting, we had our open board reorganization meeting. I'm going to stand up. We had our, is this good? We had our open board reorganization meeting. Is this, yes? Okay. And I will now be taking over as president for this year, but I definitely did not want to do so without, it's green. I do have a loud, no one's ever accused me of being too quiet. Okay, thank you. All right, now is this is much, much louder. Okay, now I'll be quieter. I did not want to move forward without acknowledging the hard work that our previous board president has done over this last year. So Rochelle Price was our board president for the 2024-25 year and has done an amazing job leading our board. She is not, as a leader, a peacekeeper. And I mean that as a great compliment because Trustee Price is a peacemaker. She sees a problem and she goes in head first. She does not turn away from any problem, and she goes in with peace and love and service in her heart. I can't speak for everyone on this, but I know that she inspires me to work harder, to be kinder, to be more loving, to give more, and to serve more, because that's the example that she sets for all of us. Now, in real life, her feet are very petite and dainty, but she has very big shoes to fill, so I will do my very best. So we have a traditional gift for her, which is the outgoing gavel. So we would like, as a board, to present her with this gavel, and on it there is a quote that really speaks to who Trustee Price is. And the quote goes like this: "The happiest people I know are those who lose themselves in the service of others." And that is by Gordon B. Hinckley. So thank you so very much, Trustee Price. You are an amazing leader and friend, and we are very lucky to have you on our board.
I am so humbled and grateful for the opportunity that's been this last year to serve as president. It has been a role that has taught me and stretched me, and also reminded me the importance of this work and why we are all here to make decisions that are going to benefit students. I am grateful to my family for their support. I'm extremely grateful to Superintendent Stock. When you're the president, you work really closely with the staff, and our cabinet is amazing, and I have so much respect and confidence in them, and I really appreciate your relationships and your professional work and all that you do, and dedication to all of our Rocklin Unified employees. We have amazing teachers and amazing staff that do so much so that our students are successful. So I'm grateful for this opportunity, excited to keep working on the board, and thank you so much.
Okay, for item 4.1, there was no action taken in closed session. For 4.2, tonight we have Isabella Oliveras from Rocklin High School as our student board representative. Welcome, Isabella. We love when you're here with us.
Hi, thank you guys so much.
Isabella will now introduce the color guard, and that will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We also ask that at that time you remain standing, and the choir will sing the Star-Spangled Banner. Isabella.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of colors by the Rocklin Unified School District's Junior ROTC Color Guard and the Pledge of Allegiance, and for the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner. The commander and U.S. flag bearer for this evening's color guard is Cadet Captain Sophia Burkhalter. The state flag is carried by Cadet Master Sergeant Wyatt Gilmer. The right guard is Cadet Master Sergeant Isaiah Brazuela. The left guard is Cadet Airman Basic Hunter Holm.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Superintendent Stock. Thank you for letting us be here. New President, Mrs. Huff, thank you for letting us be here, and the rest of our esteemed Board of Trustees and our district office members as well. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight. I just want to say something briefly, that it's always a privilege and honor to sing in our community, whether it be at Rocklin High School or community events, but also here. We're so thankful that we have been asked to do this. It's a tough week for us, to be honest with you, because this is our shameless plug, because we do have concerts this week as well. Most of these singers last night were at the school until about 7:30 last night in a dress rehearsal. Concerts on Friday evening, 7 p.m., and 2 p.m. and 7 on Saturday. So it's a big week for choral music for us. So thank you to the students for giving up yet another night, but also thank you to you for inviting us. We would not ever want to miss the opportunity to sing for our colleagues. So thank you so much. Thank you for supporting the arts. Thank you for supporting music. Thank you for supporting choir. And I know that all of us are looking so forward to having the chance to see 30 of our elementary school singers sing really for the second time here at the board. No, the third time tonight. Excuse me. This is the third time. So thank you so much for supporting us. And we're going to do 3 short songs for you. The first are going to be back-to-back. And one is called Fa La La. The other one is Merry Christmas. And then after that, we'll go into a song called The Sleigh, which is just a real quiet little subtle song. Wink, wink. Okay. So thank you once again. These are 2 right back to back.
Thank you very much. That was absolutely incredible. Thank you so very much for joining us in our board meeting tonight and sharing your beautiful voices with us. What a wonderful way to start the evening. And now we have more special guests, and Dr. Bill McDonald, Associate Superintendent of Elementary Education, will introduce the secondary and elementary choir.
Yes, thank you, Trustee President Hupp and Board of Trustees. It is an honor to, as Sean said, present what's become a tradition here in Rocklin, our third annual board holiday concert. And I look forward to some holidays cheer from our young and our older students here. We have Marianne Spees here representing our elementary choir along with Matthew Roy. Matthew, are you in the room? Right here, Matthew Roy, our other choral teacher. And you already heard from choral director at Rocklin High School, Sean Spees. Marianne, would you like to say a few words?
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Stock and President Hupt and the Board of Trustees. It's so great to be here. We have students from all 12 of your elementary schools. We've picked 3 or 4 students that signed up, first of all, and who demonstrate what we believe a choir student should be, someone who knows their music and is excited about singing. So we're presenting to you a familiar song called Jingle All the Ways. We are going to attempt to sing Jingle Bells 8 different ways. Please don't sing along. If you want to, just sing in your head, okay?
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time, children and parents, to come and do this tonight. It has really set the tone for December, and we are ready to have our board meeting now. That was absolutely amazing and beautiful. I'm going to pause the board meeting for about 5 minutes so that everybody has an opportunity to leave the room if you want to. Of course, you're more than welcome to stay. I want to say also thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Spees and Mr. Roy. That was so beautiful. We really appreciate you making the effort and taking the time to get all these kids ready for this and to bring them to the board meeting. This was really special for us. Avi, I know that boy. I'm sorry. He was in my class. He moved. He moved. There he is. All that we kept a little memorial to him in the classroom.
He must have been a fun kid, huh?
He was. He was. Aw. I wish I would have noticed. I kept thinking, he looks familiar. But he was wearing the thing on his head, and he never did at school. Well, shoot, I didn't know we were going down. I could have caught it. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with the rest of the evening. And now moving on to our special recognition and presentations portion of the meeting. Chief Dosanjh, will you introduce our family partners in education recognition tonight?
Good evening, President Hupp, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. The Family Partners in Education program is an opportunity for the Rocklin Unified School District to acknowledge and appreciate family engagement and involvement, thereby supporting our students in achieving excellence throughout the school year. Granite Oaks Middle School principal is introducing the McKirk family for tonight's Family Partners in Education recognition.
Good evening, President Hupp, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. It is absolutely my pleasure to be here this evening, and I really appreciate that you allow us to honor our families at each and every campus. It's our families that keep our schools going. It's our families that really enable us to be the schools that people want to move here for. Liza is one of those parents, and thanks to Andrew, they are a team that allows Liza to do so much work for our school. Liza's been our treasurer at Granite Oaks now for, I believe, 3 years. Keeping our, well, thankfully, Liza planned her children correctly. So Liam, hi Liam, wave Liam. So Liam was with us and is a freshman at Rocklin High School, and now Brooks is with us, and we're looking forward to having Hayes, but Hayes is 4th grade, so. But we have Liza for 4 years, so this is wonderful. She's oversaw all of our finances, and as you know, our parent group is integral in how we operate at Granite Oaks. They support our clubs, they support projects on our campus like installing drinking fountains. They support us in our purchase of IXL, which every middle school student loves, right, Liam? Which is an intervention for math and ELA on our campus. Without Liza and our parent group, we would absolutely be lost. So I really appreciate all of Liza's hard work and everything that she's done for Granite Oaks. So thank you, Liza.
Well, Liza, it is my honor on behalf of the board to appreciate you and recognize you for the many incredible things you have done. And I have to say, so impressed with the family planning that we get to keep you for many years. So it looks like there might be a little gap year in there, but I wonder if we can do something about that. But so appreciate your consistent support, your consistent work the last 3 years as treasurer. It is really important to the board that we recognize the many families and family members, and we know this is a team effect. I'm sure you guys are at home counting and checking mom's math, yeah? No. Okay, well, you're gonna be now, right? But thank you again. We know it's a family organization when one serves and volunteers, and so we just appreciate you. We know that our schools wouldn't be what they are without the incredible support of our parents and our parent clubs. So on behalf of the board, we are happy to recognize you tonight as our family partner of the month. Liza, thank you so much. And I think we have something in here for you and the family. So again, we just want to appreciate you. And now you got to humor mom and come take a Christmas photo with her.
Thank you so much. And then Chief Dosanjh, will you introduce our employee recognition tonight?
President Hub, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. Tonight for our employee recognition, Parker Whitney Elementary Principal Olivia Kahn will join us to introduce Farron Clark.
Good evening. Tonight, the Board of Trustees would like to recognize Farron Clark for his tremendous heart and long-standing dedication to serving students in our STP program. Affectionately known across campus, Mr. Clark comes best dressed, exemplifying pride, professionalism, and a deep commitment to his work with students who have special learning needs. His presence, demeanor, and thoughtful approach reflect the care and integrity he brings to his role every day. Mr. Clark takes the time to learn the intricacies of each student's behavior intervention plan and applies individual supports and strategies with consistency and compassion. His work is grounded in the belief that students' needs must always be at the center of his practice, and he approaches every task with patience, intention, and a genuine desire to help students succeed. The students he supports are students he cares deeply for, and he consistently goes above and beyond to ensure they feel safe, understood, and empowered. His ability to build strong relationships has made him a meaningful difference in the daily lives and long-term progress of learners he serves. In addition to his exceptional work with students, Mr. Clark is an incredible team player. He regularly steps in to support the SPED team with staffing when staffing is tight, doing so with positivity and a solutions-oriented mindset. On Spirit Days, Mr. Clark often arrives in full school colors and themed attire, lifting spirits and helping create a vibrant, positive atmosphere for students and staff. His dedication to fostering joy, school pride, and community connection is felt throughout campus. Mr. Clark's reliability, his kindness, and unwavering commitment make him an invaluable member of our school community, and we are deeply grateful for all that he contributes each day.
Thank you, Principal Kahn. Hi, Mr. Clark. Congratulations. I want to help recognize you on behalf of the board. Like a lot to juggle here. With a certificate, just being such an important piece of the Parker Whitney puzzle there. I mean, working in the SCP program, having to have that attention to detail with the behavior intervention plans, and I think the patience and compassion, those are the words I think that really shine through, and making these students feel welcome and safe and at home, and for their parents to know when they send them off to school, they have that peace of mind that they're being cared for. It's very important, and it's making a really meaningful difference in their lives. So thank you so much. We have that, and we have a gift here for you as well. I'm happy that I got to learn about you today.
We got to get a picture. If you're here to support Mr. Clark, you can come over in the picture. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Clark. You remind me of that saying, the eyes buy. All right, we want to thank all of the people who came to support our recognitions. And while you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, we also know you have busy lives, and we want to be respectful of your time. So now is a good time if you would like to slip out the back door. Thank you so much for coming. All right, now we are on 6.1, employee organizations, and we'll start with our RTPA President's Report given this evening by Emily Thomas. Thank you, Emily.
Before I get started, I want to do a quick shout out to Rocklin Fire Department. They came by with Santa at about 5:30 this evening. And so because they came nice and early, I got to be in the front yard with my children and my neighbors and my husband before coming over here. So thank you, Rocklin Fire Department, for making it so special to live in this town and have those experiences. And somehow Santa knew my children's names. So that was like extra, extra special. Yeah, so good evening, trustees, Superintendent Stock, and Isabella. Thank you for being here. Oh my gosh. Hi, it's so good to see you.
I know you too. You look very familiar.
Isabella's younger brother played soccer with my son, and she helped coach the team.
Yes.
Okay, so it's lovely to see you.
Yes, it's lovely to see you too.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I am Emily Thomas, and I'm here presenting for Travis on behalf of the Rocklin Teachers Professional Association. And just in case you're kind of unfamiliar with my background, this is my 20th year working in Rocklin Unified, and I've been at Whitney High School for all 20 of those years. I spent 8 years coaching swim and water polo, and then my husband and I started a family, so stepped away from coaching, but I'm looking forward to getting involved in that in another year or two when my kids are a little more independent. My children also attend Sunset Ranch, and so just very vested in the educational programs that we have going on here, and that's part of why I joined the bargaining team. Gosh, I think it was 9 years ago, but don't hold me to it. So I shared with you guys electronically, and then I think Georgia was kind enough to print the packets. Awesome. I just kind of like to know where I'm going. So I wanted to start with kind of the story of, you know, how do we find ourselves here on December 10th with fact-finding looming on December 15th, and you know, between the RTPA updates, there's kind of one narrative, and then the Parent Square updates, there's a very, very different narrative. And I think that that's understandable when you have two parties who haven't come to agreement yet. So with that, slide 2, how we got here, and for anybody watching from home, this is the slide that I had hoped to be able to present but was unable to do so. And so if you travel to the RTPA Facebook page, Instagram, and YouTube, you'll be able to access all of these slides in case these numbers are teeny tiny, you can't see them. But kind of what I wanted to just talk about is that, you know, 21-22 marked the beginning of a new relationship between the district and the teacher bargaining teams. And we're coming out of a fact-finding cycle, and it had been really contentious, and I think teachers and district were all just very tired of the battle. You know, and then we had COVID, which made everything a little more stressful. And so with that year, 21-22, you know, everybody came together and had this commitment of, let's assume best intentions, let's trust each other, or at least begin to build trust. And that takes time. So kind of where the story goes is that we spent 3 years, 21-22, 22-23, and then 23-24, in what I felt was a relationship of building trust and having very transparent conversations with Barbara Patterson, our previous chief financial officer, and a lot of labor management meetings, learning interest-based bargaining, and just how to converse in a way that wasn't, I want, and I need to win, otherwise we're gonna hate each other. And so what I want to make sure we're aware of is that in 21-22, COLA, which is funded, and it's a cost of living adjustment, was 5.07%. And so that spring, using our fair share formula that both teams had agreed upon, RTPA took a 4% ongoing pay increase, with a $1,000 one-time payment. So it was, 4% ongoing, COLA was 5%, and that felt like, okay, absolutely, I understand. There will always be members who were like, we want the full, I get it, but just in learning more and more about the budget, it was like, all right, neither side can take everything, that will never work. And so we got through 21-22, we closed, the bargaining season, and it felt very hopeful. That then brought us to 22-23, where we had a super COLA of 13.26%. And, I think when that happened, a lot of us knew, like, oh my God, that's a really big number. We can't sustain that. But nonetheless, that's great, right? That is ongoing funding that continues to come in. And so at the bargaining table, again, working through that fair share agreement, RTPA accepted a 6.88% ongoing increase. So RTPA walked away with 6.88 of a 13.26% COLA. And then, again, there were members that were not particularly happy, but it felt like it's okay to leave some money because we're building a relationship. And if we're gonna make what some would say a financial sacrifice, it's like, well, but we have to. That's how you have a relationship. It's how a marriage lasts. It's how you build rapport at a new job, right? It's give and take. Like, one of us can't always be right. One of us can't always win. So then we rolled into 23-24. COLA was funded at 8.22%, another really healthy COLA. I'm sure we were all relieved. And RTPA signed off on a 4.7% ongoing increase, which again, there were some members who felt like RTPA could have worked harder and asked for more money. But we felt like we're investing in a relationship where, if I'm being honest, like our December bargaining, we all wore ugly Christmas sweaters. And that was so fun to be able to come to those bargaining sessions and look forward to hearing updates about whatever thrift shop Tony had been in lately, or the snowboarding adventure that Matt Murphy had had. And it was really nice that we were getting to know each other on that level, and that we could ask each other about how are your kids doing, those kinds of things. How was the pet, how was the dog who was sick? And so I would say that, to me, all of those settlements, they felt really good because it was collaborative, and no, I wasn't walking away feeling like I got every single dollar that existed, but that's necessary in a relationship. Rocklin Unified is a business. I understand that. Like, bottom line, if you guys don't have money to pay the bills, the state takes over, and that's not good for teachers, nor is that good for students, nor is that good for families. I'm a homeowner in Rocklin. When the schools are doing well, my house is worth more money. Like, we all benefit when the school district is doing well. So that brings us to 24-25, and there was a very lean 1.07 COLA. And we knew our TPA going into, I guess it was February 5th. We knew going into that February 5th discussion that the fair share formula was going to be plugged in and discussed, and the numbers came back, and they were not great. But we had this relationship where it was like, okay, well, with a 1.07 COLA, we knew the numbers wouldn't be great. So where do we go from here? Okay, and what we were asking for was, is there any way, because we know we have some people retiring, that with COLA being 1.07, that you could pass along a 1% ongoing offer? We realize that leaves you 0.07%, very little to work with, but because there was so much room between the accepted offers and the funded COLA in previous years, you know, there just was a little bit of hope that, oh, okay, maybe the trust will flow the other way and we can see what happens with 1%. And we had that conversation for a couple hours, and, you know, to the district team's credit, like crunching numbers, having conversation, you know, but at the end of kind of the morning, it was like 1% is not going to happen. And so our TPA stepped out and we said, okay, you guys, what do we do? And it was like, you know what, even if it's just 0.5%, if it's just 0.5% ongoing, members are gonna be disappointed, but that's something that our retirees will feel for the rest of their lives, because it's something that's ongoing. And so, you know, the bargaining team from the district was very gracious, and they said, okay, we're gonna make some phone calls. You guys go to lunch, and we'll meet you back in an hour. Our lunches on bargaining days are amazing, because if you've ever worked in a school, you get 30 minutes. So, you know, we were pretty hopeful, obviously trying to figure out the optics of, you know, how do we sell our people on 0.5%. So we got back from lunch, and, you know, we were met with, you know, clearly disappointed faces from the bargaining team in the district, and we're told, you know, we're so sorry, but the ongoing 0.5% isn't going to be authorized. It won't be authorized. It's one-time money is all that's going to be available. You know, and while it was disappointing, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it wasn't disappointing. It was, but I trusted the relationship, and so it was like, okay, if this is really the best that you can do, then we're not playing the game of hiding things from each other anymore. We haven't for what I thought was 3 or 4 years. So, okay, the one-time money, you know, for some people, well, for everybody, right? Like, money is helpful, period. And then for the one-time money, especially our younger teachers, they were like, okay, this is really exciting, great. You know, and then, as I'm sure we recall, at the March 5th board meeting, there was a comment made by one of the trustees that, quote, there was a question of why one-time money and ongoing money were viable options. And, end quote. When we heard that, it was, you know, immediately, just so I think you can appreciate where I'm coming from, like, cell phones are blowing up and emails are coming in, and it's like, oh my gosh, no, we didn't lie to you. Our TPA didn't lie to you. We didn't give you one-time money from the district because there was ongoing money offered. We were never offered ongoing money. And, you know, I don't know if it's popular that I share that we even asked for 0.5%, because I realize that doesn't go far. But, you know, I do want you to know what went on kind of behind the scenes. And, you know, and I know it was met with surprise when it was said here, like, wait a minute, ongoing money was a viable option, because it was shocking to us because we had never been given that option. And so obviously what followed was an immediate conversation with the district's bargaining chair, you know, and we just very bluntly asked, you know, did you lie to us? And the response was, if we offered one-time money, we knew you would take it, and that wasn't what was best for you, so we decided not to offer it. And that just felt insulting, because we're all professionals, and it felt like it undermined the relationship that we had been building for 3 years. It also felt like, oh my gosh, I have failed my members, because for 3 years, you know, we took significantly less than full COLA, less than 70% COLA. And that was fine, because what I kept telling people was, guys, we're building a relationship, and we're not in the land of playing games anymore. You know, we're not in the lands of, we have to start crazy high, and they have to start crazy low, and we're just gonna beat each other up until we meet in the middle. We're done with that. We made a promise in 2021 that we wouldn't do that anymore. And so then for that to happen on March 5th, it really forced our TPA to evaluate the process that we had been honoring, because clearly the process was not working for both sides equally. You know, we also had the opportunity to then sit down with the district bargaining team and ask everyone individually, you know, like, did you all know that there was ongoing money on the table? And You know, the response from one of the district members was, you know, Emily, it's bargaining. What do you expect? And that was just, again, very disappointing because I understand I'm bargaining chair, right? And I understand we have negotiations meetings, but it did feel like we had agreed to change the rules and we had agreed to act as professionals, and the district trusted us to be transparent with their finances, which thank you so much, right? Like, I think that it really helps the community and it helps teachers to understand. I mean, not that looking at a 100-page SACS report is easy to understand, but like the fact that you make it available to me says there's nothing to hide, right? It's just a matter of who has the time and the energy and the interest to really get to know the finances of a school district. You know, so progress has been made, but I wanted to start by just kind of imploring you to hear this is how we got here, and this is not where Emily Thomas, bargaining chair, wants us to be. This is not where I envisioned steering the ship in 2021 when the team sat down and agreed to try something new. So with that, okay, the good news is that we have a date for fact-finding, and that's going to be December 15th here at the CV Center, Placer County Office of Education. So I'm like super thankful that we don't have to drive up to Auburn. It is my son's birthday, and this will be the second birthday that I'm missing because I'm bargaining with RUSD. And I hope that we can change that. I'm going to celebrate him big this Friday and big on Sunday, but I don't want him to align Mommy's gone with birthday. But the reality was, you know, if I said no to the 15th, we might have had to push it out for another week. And I think that we all hopefully deserve to go on winter break with a settlement. And that's, I guess, the biggest part of what I'm here to say is that our TPA is approaching fact-finding with optimism and the hope that RUSD will walk into that building settlement-minded. And I'm here to promise you that our TPA is walking into that building settlement-minded. And I understand that settlement means reasonable settlement, and it means that, you know, RUSD will make some hard choices about where to spend money. And I know those are challenging and that you have to answer questions about every dollar you spend. You know, I also know as our TPA chair that teachers have a financial reality that is untenable right now. You know, I myself am making $276 less per paycheck than I was in November of 2023. And not because Rocklin Unified is evil, but because healthcare costs have gotten so stinking expensive. You know, but I have to be honest and say, when I look back at those years of settlements where we accepted so much less than COLA and we still have a fractured relationship, it is not ideal, I guess, is kind of the best way that I can say it. And I'm just really hoping that, you know, on December 15th, everybody is there to try and do what's best for our community and do what's best for our students. And, you know, if that takes until 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, I have epilepsy, so I'll bring my medicine and, you know, we'll have my doctor on call, but I'm not leaving because I'm committed to hopefully coming back from break and not having to explain to my kids, you know, why teachers are standing on street corners, why we're having such a hard time hiring a football coach at Whitney High School. Like, these are things that I really think we can solve. And one of the pieces that will come into play in that settlement is going to be some of the safety language that our TPA proposed. And those are just all the other pictures. And I didn't want to overwhelm you, but I also don't know how much you get to see, you know, as trustees, because you're not in the classroom, and I know as a teacher, like, I don't have a personal relationship with any of you, and it's like, well, do I share my struggles, but does that put my job on the line? And so I just wanted you to see that these pictures all come from different sites, and all of these pictures were taken in the last school year. So they've been taken since September and then in August. You know, and these are just the ones that I put on the slide, but if you are interested in seeing more pictures, teachers obviously felt very strongly, as well as parents who shared, that they remain anonymous because they didn't want there to be impacts on their children or on their professions, their positions within the district. But I do think that there is a real opportunity to improve safety in our elementary classrooms. And the reason I bring this up is that the Breen parents and the Breen teachers who came and spoke at the November 19th meeting, to be honest, it just, as a parent, it really made me feel like, oh my gosh, what can we do to help? And so I wanted to share these pictures with you and just let you know, if you want more pictures, reach out to me. But RTPA did pass language to the district asking for a couple things, and that language has already been struck through. And so, just if you have the opportunity or the inclination, one of the things we asked for was looking into the feasibility of having a campus monitor on all of our elementary and middle school campuses, so that when these kiddos are having the big emotions that lead to these blowouts that wreck the rooms, the current practice is that the class evacuates, and one kiddo is, and I don't know the details of exactly, when there's an adult available, an adult stays in the room. But at the high school, if I have a high schooler whose behavior is escalating, or who smells like marijuana, or any of those things that I don't want to deal with and have all of my students' attention drawn to, right, I can very discreetly text my on-campus monitor, and he just comes to the room and he knows who the student, I've texted the name, and he escorts that kiddo out. And sometimes they just walk a couple laps and then the student's ready to come back to class. Sometimes that student needs to go home because, he or she is just not in a headspace where sitting and writing a paragraph with Mrs. Thomas is good for them right then. And so we thought that, potentially, obviously, those campus monitors would need to be trained, but why not explore the option of allowing an elementary teacher to pick up a phone and say, hey, I've got a kiddo who is starting to bubble. And all of our elementary teachers have these charts and behavior modification plans, but when those aren't working, our elementary teachers are professionals and they know it's not working. And so if we can get that kiddo out of the room to a safe space prior to the extreme behavior, we just thought, based on feedback from our elementary teachers, that that was an idea worth exploring. And so that's something that was just struck through and not considered. And so I didn't know, trustees, if that is something that, potentially we could explore on the 15th, because the reality is that safety really matters. And so we're hopeful that safety can be one of the topics broached during our 8, 12, 14, 16-hour session on the 15th. And then one other piece of language that is worth considering, in my opinion, is just that right now, many of our elementary campuses have a single administrator because, they're a smaller campus and we have ratios that we honor. And so, part of the language asks that, if a kiddo is having an extreme behavior or even some kind of behavior that's disrupting the learning environment for the other 33 kids who are in that room, that the teacher have the ability to call an administrator, and if an administrator is available, which I understand they have so many things going on, but just to put in the language that the teacher does have the option to call the administrator, and the administrator can, if available, come and bring that kiddo out of the classroom long enough to do the walk around, long enough to kind of ascertain, is this a situation that we can de-escalate and kiddo can come back to class? But I think the bottom line there is, in listening to those Breen parents, how many instructional moments are these kids missing when their sole focus is ducking and not getting hit with a water bottle? And I just know if that was my kid, I'd be losing my mind. So this seemed like just another way where, we already have our administrators on campus. I absolutely know you're so busy, administrators, and we love and appreciate you. But if we could put that language in there, then our teachers would know, at least it's an option. And that was something else that was struck through, where it's like, I get it if the administrator is already busy with something, they can't solve every problem, but it's just one more option where we can empower our elementary teachers to feel like they're able to keep themselves safe and their students safe. So that is what I have for you guys this evening. Really just the RTPA is looking forward to, in a weird way, December 15th and fact-finding, and we are hopeful that a settlement can be reached, and thank you for giving me the time to speak this evening. I appreciate it, and happy holidays.
Emily, thank you for sharing.
Welcome. And Isabella, I'm sorry, I'm going home to read stories to my kids, but thank you in advance for the lovely update you share. And good to see you. I would tell Mr. Levi to say
Emily, maybe if you could wait just for a minute. I think there's a few things that you brought up that I know there's something I want clarification for, and thank you for sending these. We were able to go through them ahead of time, and I'll admit when I looked at it, some of the numbers seemed unfamiliar to me, like the 1326. I didn't remember ever getting numbers that high, and so I immediately started emailing to get more clarification on what some of those numbers looked like on our end and some of the extenuating circumstances during those years, because those were the COVID years when all the different funds were coming at us from all different directions.
Yeah.
But they were saying, like, this is for this and this is for COVID relief and all of that. So I asked for clarification, and maybe if Assistant Superintendent Stahlheber could clarify some of those numbers and how they came in, because I know there was good faith bargaining, and I know at no point was anyone trying to withhold funds from the teachers. So I just wanted clarification on why there was this discrepancy between the funded COLA and the compensation. And Jennifer, if you could maybe clarify that.
Yes, I would love to provide some context. So when we receive a COLA from the state of California, the COLA is applied to our base grant. It just becomes part of the calculation. It doesn't mean that the district actually receives additional funds in the amount of the COLA. So if you have declining enrollment or you have growth, you could receive less than COLA or more than COLA. And so I did look at the numbers that were provided, the COLA that was listed, and those, other than the 22-23 year, are all the COLA that was provided. In 22-23, COLA, the calculated COLA, which is calculated based on inflation factors, both nationally and statewide, was 6.56. The governor did add an additional 6.7 in funds, and
will you back up and say that again?
yes.
Okay,
So in
ready.
22-23, the calculated COLA for the state was 6.
Calculated is different from statutory, and it's different from funded.
No, the statutory COLA, which is the calculated COLA,
Okay.
was 6.56.
Okay, pause 1 second. So statutory is the same as the calculated, and you said it was what?
6.56.
Perfect.
And then the governor augmented it with an additional amount that equated to 6.7.
Right.
And it was to help address our rising operational and fixed costs and support ongoing educational investments related to the challenges we were facing coming out of the pandemic.
Okay.
We had a lot of delay and increases in shipping and materials. We just saw a lot of things on the rise, and everybody saw that.
Yeah.
Hence, even a 6.56 cost of living is significantly high, followed by the following year is an 8.22. But I think the context that is missing when we just look at COLA is that just gets plugged in and the base actually increases by that. But our funding then is calculated using our ADA in the base. So when I look back at those years, in 22-23, our base revenues increased 11.445. So, and then we settled on a 6.88. So I did go look, were there other factors? And when I look in 21-22, utilities went up 19.1%. Special ed contribution went up 8.7. In 22-23, that was the year special ed funding changed, and then how the SELPA allocated funds based on how the state changed its methodology. We lost approximately about $1 million in revenues through SELPA, and so our contribution that year went up by 15.6%. So we had some fixed costs that were already driving up our expenditures before we ever gave anything ongoing. And then historically, when the last time I did a 7-year average, our step and column is about 2% on the natural. Just automatically, we see a 2% increase for that part of our budget.
Would you say that's accurate right now with more than half of our members topping out and not moving each year?
Yeah, we still have a 2%. We calculate it every year. And that's because when people are still moving, some of our cells are increased by over 5%. So even though it's a smaller number moving, some of those upper cells have the biggest gaps between them compared to some of the lower cells. And I'm sorry if I'm bird walking a little bit here. But I wanted to give some context because even in the year 23-24, in which we received an 8.22 COLA on the base grant,
Right.
our revenue increased 6.068%.
Okay.
And that was the year we passed on 4.7. And last year, our revenues actually decreased by 0.893% in our base funds.
Well, and what's so amazing, though, is that even with revenues decreasing last year, right, we moved from having 24.3% of revenue in reserves to 24.6% in revenue of reserves. So our percent of reserves did increase despite those things. And so those are those nuances that I think as an English teacher with no financial backing, my dad runs multiple cities because he's such a math genius, but was very disappointed when I became an English teacher. Sorry, Dad. I'm doing what I can, and like those numbers are just confusing, right? And then when COLA this year is a 2.3, does that sound 2.3?
Yes.
But the district can afford to offer a full 2, right? It's like, and obviously the past is the past. There's nothing we can do about the past, it's behind us, but it does leave my English teacher brain, and I think a lot of other teachers to go, okay, well, if they can afford a 2 of a 2.3, but they couldn't afford, do you know what I mean? And so I totally hear you.
But our base funds this year are increasing by 2.115 with the 2.30 COLA. Last year, they decreased. So we had fewer base funds.
You know, it still comes back to if there could have just been honesty at that bargaining table. You know, RTPA was willing to accept 0.5% in the spring. And like I said, you know, we can't go back, and I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate your expertise in your field. I think that's wonderful.
Right. I would dispute just the one item, though, because when we were there in that room, we were never presented that RTPA was willing to accept a 0.5 ongoing.
Okay.
That was never presented.
Well, maybe we can meet, because I would be happy to share with you the meeting minutes. Jeremy Waddell, if any of you know him as a science teacher, is like meticulous. His brain works that way. And so that would be worth sharing. And again, it's the past, and we didn't record it, so there's no way of knowing if 9 of us made something up. You know, obviously, you believe your truth, and I promise I would not stand here and lie, but we seem to be at a misunderstanding. So I guess what I would just come back to is, because I think, Jennifer, you're going to be part of fact-finding, is, you know, please come into that room settlement-minded if that is at all possible. I think that a strike, you know, after winter break is not what's best for kids. It's not what's best for teachers. It's not what is best for our home values. It's not what's best for anybody's soul, anybody's Christmas spirit, you know. And so I just, you know, already feel like I just hope that we can go into that room and be professionals and humans who are just interacting with each other, hopefully in a spirit of Emily doesn't get to leave fact-finding the winner, and Jennifer doesn't get to leave fact-finding the winner, because that's not what this is. You know, we have to reach a settlement for the sake of our USD functioning and being the amazing place that it is. So if there aren't any other questions, I'd love to get home to my kids.
I just have a quick comment. I just have a
Totally,
couple quick comments.
totally.
I've been here since 2019. I was here when things were rough, and I've been here to see things get better. And I think there's another difference that wasn't mentioned in those years that were maybe a little bit more peaceful. I was on the Labor Management Committee, worked with some things, and that was CTA was not part of the conversation. It was Rocklin teachers and union doing what's best for Rocklin.
Mm-hmm.
That is something I think that should be pointed out. You know, you heard my message last month. I have the utmost confidence and hope, and I appreciate your hope as well, that we have had such we have great people that are invested in the right thing. I think, you know, it's important that we get out the truth, and because we are all wanting the same thing to our community. And so these are different narratives, and that's really frustrating because we want to have a relationship of trust and transparency. You know, we give 85% of our budget to people compared to a city that gives 65%. And unfortunately, COLA is not.
Right, like cities, just so that everybody who's
Yeah,
listening,
yeah,
like
not apples to oranges.
municipalities totally are
For
funded
sure.
completely different, and why, Superintendent Stock, you ever went into public education in the state of California, God bless you, because there's just not enough money.
Yes,
You know, like the governor
100%. Yes. So I was just giving it as a perspective. I also think it's really important that we point out that COLA is not solely to fund employee compensation. Unfortunately, there's other costs that are in there, including, you know, additional increase in utilities and special education costs, which have been huge. So it is our desire, and I'll keep saying it, to give teachers as much as we can. I think there's some things to work out. I'm hopeful for fact-finding. I did have one more comment about safety. Yes, these pictures are upsetting, and we had seen them. I'm wondering if Dr. McDonald, can you just share with our families and also with our teachers, you know, can they not call an administrator if they have a problem? What is the policy if we have, these are rare, extreme, I appreciate you pointing that out, these are rare, extreme behaviors, and we're seeing them across the state. We were just at...
I'm not hearing from my teachers that it's rare. I agree it's extreme, but I'm not hearing that it's rare, and that's where my concern comes in.
We're hearing that across the state, it's happening more and more, which is heartbreaking, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So these are behaviors that we are all concerned about, and nobody, no child or teacher should come to school and question their safety. Yes. I do want to hear, though, Dr. McDonald, what are some things, what are the tools that our teachers do have?
Yeah, thank you. I do want to acknowledge this is a challenge, right? So this is something that this year in particular, but for the past 5 years, we've seen some increasing behaviors of actually really young students, like 5 and 6 years old. These are primarily kindergarten and first graders. And the difference with this is younger and in general education classes. So we've had some of these issues in special education for years. We still do, but we staff and we structure those rooms to support some of these more extreme behaviors, but we're seeing more of this in general ed classrooms. This year, you know, we have half a dozen classrooms that are affected. We have really 2 that out of 221 that are very impacted that we're working with very closely, just to give you some perspective on the issue. However, even those 2, like, I lose a lot of sleep over this. I know teachers are very impacted by this. Like you said, Ms. Price, there is nothing I care about more than teachers and students coming to school and being safe in their classrooms and be able to learn. And so these behaviors are very disruptive. We have a lot of classroom supports that are in place for students. We have a lot of school level support. So I'm interested to hear, you know, both your ideas are interesting because one, teachers can always call an administrator. 100% of the time, that has always been true. Administrators, I'm worried about my principals because they spend a huge amount of time dealing with student behaviors, and they are in classrooms and on the playgrounds and climbing monkey bars and running down the street helping with student behaviors. And that's a big part of their day, a large portion of their day, and it does impact their ability to do other important principal jobs. So that's something that we're looking at. And in terms of behavioral support, several years ago, we established behavioral response teams at schools. Those include principals, counselors, which we're lucky to have at our schools now. That's a big support to teachers and principals. We have behaviorists that support schools for several days a week. We have psychologists. When the teacher texts, that team comes and responds to behavior. So that's a first level support.
And can I clarify that we have, is it 3 behaviorists currently?
We have 3 behaviorists that are BCBAs that serve the district. They oversee a team of 15 behavior support intervention specialists.
Okay.
So there's a kind of a tiered level of support that we provide. Those are the bosses of that model, right?
Gotcha.
So that model exists. Again, and I love that that works at high school. What we find at elementary is, like, even in a most recent problem we have, is the escalation is so sudden and so quick that we don't have time to even call in someone, even when we're texting that group. By the time they get there, you know, we may have had to evacuate students. We may have furniture that's been upset in the classroom. So our best situation is absolutely to catch these behaviors before they happen, to provide interventions to students, to provide replacement behaviors through behavior support plans. All those things are critical. One thing we are working on and we're very serious about next year is that behavior support team that I talked about with all those individuals. We've deployed that across the district to support in different ways. When we see a hot spot, we'll put a person over there to help, to coach the teacher, to work with the classroom. Next year, I'm working with Leslie, our Director of Special Education. We think we can deploy behavior specialists to every site to support teachers. And we think that could be a potential change that we haven't tried before. And we think that's a low-cost item because we think that's important. And again, we're seeing more of this, and we want to make sure we have supports on the site. We're also doing, you know, we're working as a district work group around this. We're looking out to the county for supports. I have a meeting next week with some county people to talk about it. Other districts are having this issue, so we're working with them, trying to figure out what they're doing. We will find solutions for this, and we're moving through it, and it's tough, but we're doing a lot. That's what I want everyone to know, that the district takes it really seriously, and we're doing a lot, because it's a hard problem.
And Emily, I wanted to appreciate you for sharing this with us, because at the last meeting, it was very unsettling to hear what we heard. And so I do want you to know, you know, we stayed after for quite some time and really asked a lot of questions and said, I really want to know more about this and understand what resources do we have available and what can we do better. Reached out to our neighboring districts, neighboring school board members, and said, what are you doing that's working well in your district? I'm on the delegate assembly. Last week when I was in Sacramento, I brought up this very issue and said, I hear that this is happening throughout the state. What are we doing about it, and what can we do in Rocklin Unified? And then tonight circled back with the superintendent and said, here's some of the ideas we're hearing from other districts. So I do want you to know this isn't falling on deaf ears. I hear you. I'm very concerned, but I'm also very appreciative of what is being done and the seriousness that night, I think it was quite some time, you know, Associate Superintendent McDonald, that we were talking specifically about what can we do better, what are we already doing. And so I do want to make sure you are heard tonight, and you know that you are heard, and that this is an issue that is actively being addressed and is really important to the board and specifically to me as well. And I appreciate, too, your approach tonight, just the conversation. I wanted to say that. I don't think anybody is in this room that doesn't want to find resolution, right? And so I share that with you because I think that was true when I first came in 2020. I actually remember sitting down with a group of teachers, and you were in the room, and saying, tell me how I can help. That's still the same. I still want to know how I can help. I don't think anybody came here tonight or when they first engaged with the district to do anything other than that. And so I just want you to know I hear you tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about some of these numbers, and I appreciate the questions that some of my colleagues asked, because I was surprised by some of the numbers, because these weren't the same numbers that I was looking at. And so I appreciate the opportunity to clear that up, because I think when we're able to have these conversations that we're working with the same information and same numbers, it's less confusing for our district, right? And our families and our staff. I would be confused too, as I was when I first saw this and said, hey, I need some clarification. I was never operating off of that number, so let's have. So I hope we were able to clear those things up tonight, that the COLA was less. And again, I'm hopeful for resolution. I think we all are. I think I heard your heart tonight that you're hopeful for resolution too. And so I just want to take a moment just to appreciate you. I know there's a lot of distance there. I think, you know, I am still personally trying to wrap my mind around what a 15% would look like. That's a lot of money. That creates a lot of cuts.
And that's why, you know, that's why I say again and again that, you know, I think fact finding is about finding a reasonable settlement. And Rochelle, to speak to your comment about CTA, you know, I am not that far off the page with you in terms of, you know, we didn't have our CTA representative at our meetings until it came out that we had been lied to. And then I'll take responsibility and say I made the phone call of, okay, I think I steered the ship in the wrong direction because this is what has unfolded. I even called John Gray of School Services to be like, oh, I don't know what to do, John. Like, I have made a mess of things, and now we're in this position. And I thought that our TPA could do it alone for those 3 or 4 years, and it felt like we were making progress. It felt like, oh, okay, the English teacher, like, we can do this. you know, because we're collaborative. And so I completely hear what you're saying. And I just got to a point where I felt like, okay, I'm out of my depth and I need help. You know, and that's where I know to go for help. But I am hopeful that we can return to a time where it's just our TPA in the room working with our USD.
Yeah, thank you, me too.
Can I
If there's
just-
something that, if we think we've been lied to, I don't think this is the place to hash it out. But unless, Dr. Limoges, you'd like a minute to speak to it, I definitely think that there's got to be some additional conversation here because we continue to hear this. So wherever you would like that to happen, do you want to say something now?
Sure. I mean, I think, obviously, and I don't think I'm repeating anything that Emily hasn't said, is obviously there is a vast difference in the perspective of what happened last year. And continually, I respect that the perspective is that there was lying. I can assure you there was no lying from the district's perspective, because I don't get that opportunity to just make last-minute changes at the table. Obviously, the negotiation team is a steward of the board through the superintendent on down, and so decisions don't come where I get the opportunity with somebody else's money to make a game day decision and choose to lie or not lie. I don't have that authority. So you're welcome to your perspective and to share it, but I want to assure the public is what it is as a perspective. I have the utmost respect for Emily and would not lie to her intentionally as the leader of the district group. So, you know, it's obviously a perspective and a vast difference between the two ideas.
What about maybe some clarification on discussions as opposed to offers?
Could you please clarify that question?
Yeah, it sounds like there's been lots of conversation tonight about either conversations or offers given at the table. Could you maybe just walk through a person that doesn't engage in that, what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, what either one group does in the room is makes a proposal, and then there is a counter proposal, and there's another counter proposal, and then another counter proposal, and we attempt to reach an agreement somewhere in that.
And I think what was so beautiful about what was happening last spring is that my impression was we didn't use proposal, counter proposal. We'd even gotten to a point where, hey, we all trust each other, so these are called supposals, right? These are called supposals, and Emily can throw supposal out, Tony can throw supposal out, and none of them are legally binding. We're just having a conversation. And so that, but again, right, it's another perception thing where in the spring where we were wearing Christmas sweaters, like it in my memory wasn't proposal, counter proposal. We were in the land of like, here's the problem, and then let's suppose our way to a solution that probably neither one of us is thrilled about. But to me, that's the sign of there's been some collaboration because we both feel like we're giving a little and we both feel like we're getting enough that we can live with it. So I think that you have a really valid point that maybe some kind of communication in the future could be very helpful because, you know, the RTPA perception is 100% that, you know, a ongoing money was asked for and the response was that offer doesn't exist and it wasn't authorized. So again, like Tony said very clearly, that is my perception. And I would be super open to whatever counseling happens in the professional world, you know, to try and repair that relationship so that moving forward, there can be, you know, some level, I mean, at some point, there's got to be the first step of building the relationship back up again.
And I appreciate that. And I think tonight, this dialogue, I hope we all are able to go away saying, I think this helps. I think for me, I really appreciate that. I appreciate the understanding that there might be different perspectives there of how the conversation played out. But I also still find myself with a responsibility to look back at the numbers. Because the numbers haven't changed. And so I think making sure that we're giving clear communication out to the public about what COLAs were. There's a difference, right, between the initial COLA and augmented funds. And so I would hope we can work together on that in the communication. But I think that's where I just found myself in a sticking point, going, what is the cost of 15%? And what is that actual cost of the district? And where do those cuts come from? And so I think for me, just understanding tonight, when I continue to see that 15% What is the cost RTPA sees 15% costing the district?
Oh, I think it's a significant ask, and that's why we went into mediation a month ago. So excited and hopeful that a reasonable settlement could be reached, and that was not a direction that the mediator felt the day was going. And so I'm again really hopeful that our USD will meet our TPA, and we can both talk our way to a reasonable settlement, because I can absolutely see that the cost of a 15% ongoing salary increase would be fiscally strenuous for the district to bear.
Yeah. Considering, and I hear the conversation of the reserve, but considering that's one-time money. So thank you for that. I've been wanting to have that conversation because I have no desire to withhold any money. But the calculation I see, what 15% calculates out to, that is severe cuts and layoffs. And that is nothing I think any of us want in this room.
I'm so sorry, but does anybody else like?
I just want to say one
Okay,
thing,
hi,
and
Julie.
then I will just let
Okay,
you go.
I know, I'm so sorry.
I
This
know,
is why
I'm
I'll never
so
be
sorry.
president,
I
'cause I can't
just want to
stay
say, you made a comment that you had made a big mess of things the last few years, and I just have to refute that. I'm sorry. You were in the room, you were running the numbers with Jennifer, you saw the full open budget, you understood the context of where the money needed to go and the needs of the district and the needs of the teachers, and I think you were doing an amazing job. I do not think you made a mess of anything, and I think you and your team, along with the district team, were doing an amazing job. I do. I don't think you made a mess of anything, and I don't think you have anything to feel bad about. I think you were doing a great job.
Thank you, Julie. I just wanted to add, I appreciate your approach this evening and the way that you delivered your perspective and your, just candid way of speaking about how this has impacted you and how this has, been your reality as time has gone on. Trustee Counter and I both agreed to continue on as the labor management representatives for the board. It's something that was important to me to learn more about the process and see how this relationship works. And I'm definitely committed, like you said, if there's some kind of counseling or something that happens, I'm here for any of that in whatever capacity, is appropriate for me as a trustee. And in sharing those pictures, and I know that those pictures are, have been shared, and I just want to speak on the safety. Like, I've been in classrooms that look like that. I've helped evacuate classrooms, gen ed classrooms in situations like that, and I know, like, being on that end of it and seeing the impacts that it has, I appreciated you bringing up some of the points, the ideas, that have been talked about. I was able to go after that last meeting when the parents and teachers spoke with Dr. McDonald and see some of those classrooms, talk to some principals and teachers. I've spoken to some parents, and I think he gave a good summary of some of this process. I think it's a reality, like it's been mentioned, that this is happening. But then we say, okay, so we know now kind of what we're facing, so how do we use our resources wisely? How do we kind of maybe increase the efficiency with timing and just make sure that people are not wearing so thin and the impacts are minimized. So just wanted to share that with you, and I appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, get out of here before somebody else asks a question.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night, Emily. All right, next up is Bettina Hart with the CSEA President's Report.
Good evening. Not quite sure how I can follow that. That was pretty amazing by Ms. Thomas. And you guys switched on me, so I have to change my speech. So, good evening, President Hupp, members of the board, Superintendent Stock, Cabinet, Georgia, and Sandeep. I'm honored to be speaking with you tonight, as this will be my last speech as chapter president. Tonight we had our Q&A for our presidential candidates with Lenny Gavin and Liz Salazar. With our election coming up this upcoming Monday, I'm excited to see who will be representing our chapter and standing up here next month. I hope the new president continues to share with you each month how amazing and hardworking our staff is, so that you can see the dedication they bring to our district every single day. I have always said that our classified staff is the backbone of this district, and I believe that with all my heart, because their work keeps our schools running every single day. Our transportation staff makes sure students arrive safely, on time, navigating all kinds of challenges to ensure students get to school and ready to learn. Our nutrition services provide healthy, nutritious meals and fuel students' learning and well-being, often going above and beyond to accommodate dietary needs. Our front office staff keeps everything organized, registering students, supporting admin, greeting guests, and giving teachers the tools and resources they need to help with teaching. Special education aides offer important day-to-day support that helps students participate fully in their school day and thrive in the classrooms. Custodians work tirelessly to keep classrooms clean, safe, and welcoming, ensuring students have the environment where they can focus and feel cared for. Ground staff maintain our school sites so they are beautiful, functional, and safe for learning and play. Maintenance keeps everything running smoothly behind the scenes, from fixing broken equipment to ensuring that classrooms and facilities are safe and operational. And our technology. Without them, this board meeting wouldn't even be possible, from the computers to this microphone to streaming on YouTube. Each department, each team member brings dedication, skill, and care every single day, making sure our schools function to the highest level. Each one is essential, and together they ensure that our students, teachers, and community are supported, and this is why we truly are the backbone. But I also want to recognize tonight our teachers, who I see as the heart of our district. They inspire, guide, and support our students every day, helping them explore their interest and grow in so many ways. Our district is strongest when the heart and the backbone work together, and I believe that we are at our best when we do. Right now, we may face challenges and moments when we aren't fully working together, but I hope that we can all see the value in coming together as a team. We classified staff and teachers support one another and share their knowledge. Our staff benefit, our students benefit, our schools thrive, and our district shines. As I close my term as chapter president, I am filled with pride in what we have accomplished, and I am hopeful for the future, because the heart and the backbone cannot function without each other. And by working together, they will continue to strengthen our chapters, our schools, and the lives of the students we serve every day. President Hupp, members of the board, Superintendent Stock, and Cabinet, thank you for listening to my monthly president reports over the last 2 years and supporting our chapter. I truly appreciate everything you have done for our students and our staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bettina. I have to say that through your reports, I feel like I know our CSEA staff better than I ever did before. We really appreciate all that you've shared, and the heart that you've shared it with has just been, it has been the highlight of our board meetings, and we really appreciate you. We're gonna miss you a lot.
I appreciate you guys to allowing me to come up here and talk. I know a lot of times I don't get into the politics. I don't do that kind of thing. I see myself more as a cheerleader. I'm not a leader. I think whoever will come in here in my position will do that, but I hope that they come up here and they still share the wonderful things that we do, because we deserve that. We need to have those kind of shout outs. So I appreciate you guys for all that you have done, and I appreciate Cabinet for bringing CSEA more involved with the day-to-day, inviting us to seminars, allowing us to learn more. That wasn't done in the past, and I really appreciate that we have built a relationship, which we haven't had, and I appreciate that, and I feel that that was something that I started, and I hope that it continues. So thank you guys.
We hope so too, Bettina. We'll miss you. All right, now on to comments and report from our student board representative, Isabella. Will you please share your report?
Good evening, President Hupp, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. Thank you for having me tonight. We have a lot going on at our USD schools, so let's get right into it. The Antelope Creek students, families, and community collected over 2,000 items, which accumulated to 78 boxes of food for local food banks in the local area. We thank our families and community for their generosity during the holiday season. Antelope Creek is also in the final stages of developing a recess club and additional after-school activities for their Spark the Arts programming. These programs will focus on bringing additional visuals and performing arts opportunities to their students for the winter and into the spring season. Finally, Antelope Creek staff is now consistently implementing the Reading Horizons early reading program in all their kindergarten through second grade classrooms. This program is going to build phonemic proficiency in a collective, consistent manner across the early grade levels in order to build literacy skills and boost literacy achievement at Antelope Creek. Happy holidays and go Falcons. At Rocklin Elementary, we're lucky to have members from the CHP provide 2 kid-friendly safety assemblies on December 1st. Kids enjoyed checking out a CHP car and 2 CHP motorcycles. Thank you to their amazing PTC who will be offering a kids' night out titled Jammies and Jingles, and backed by popular demand, Penguin Patch. Penguin Patch is an opportunity for students to purchase gifts for their loved ones and for minimal cost. We wish you a happy holiday and healthy holiday season. At Twin Oaks, the last 2 weeks in December are packed with holiday cheer and exciting activities. On Saturday, December 6th, they'll kick things off with their Jingle Mingle, complete with fun games, hot cocoa, and pictures with Santa. Their second graders will be heading to the Roseville Theater to see a lively presentation of Pete the Cat, while 5th and 6th graders will participate in a hygiene presentation and complete the California Healthy Kids Survey. Their TK and kindergarten students are eagerly awaiting the start of construction on their brand new playground, which begins on December 13th. TK students are also busy rehearsing their gingerbread play to perform for their families. To top it all off, they'll be sprinkling in cozy winter spirit days, keeping the holiday excitement going right up until winter break. Rock Creek enjoyed getting to meet with each of their families during parent-teacher conferences last month. The Red Hawks are wrapping up their map testing and are looking forward to meeting their growth targets. Rock Creek is excited for the PTC's annual Pajama and Pancake Breakfast on Saturday, December 13th, which provides a fun time for the Red Hawk community to gather together, get cozy, and send each other off to the last week before winter break. At Sierra Elementary, their sharks are doing sharktastic things. They have shown amazing progress from the first trimester, thanks to the staff's hard work during Shark Shuffle. Their aides and teachers have teamed up to make great things happen in the classrooms. They are proud of their sharks who participated in cross-country run by parent volunteer Ms. Roca. Every shark improved their times at each meeting throughout the season. Their after-school choir, led by Mrs. Hansen, recently performed at the Galleria Mall and will sing in a family holiday concert at school later this month. Last but not least, they want to share a great example of interdisciplinary learning in their IB program. Their incredible 5th grade team, Mr. Keck and Mrs. Blazer, are teaching their sharks about ecosystems. They have partnered up with their amazing Spanish instructor Senora Kaufman, who is translating key vocabulary for this science content and making connections to Spanish cognates to further enrich their scientific vocabulary. Likewise, the 5th graders are making connections to the local ecosystems with their artwork in Mrs. Johnson's VAPA class, where they have created beautifully detailed metal scratch art of native birds to live in their local ecosystems. Last month, Sunset Ranch held their 3rd annual international fair, wherein their families were able to represent booths with information and food from 15 countries, including Russia, Vietnam, USA, Bolivia, Greece, England, Ireland, Brazil, Italy, Sweden, Romania, China, Mexico, Philippines, and Peru. They also had 4 different performances. A local Taekwondo studio did a 10-minute demo. A local Polynesian dance school did a 15-minute dance performance showcasing dances from 4 different Polynesian countries. And they had 2 WHS students from the WHS Student Talent Agency and Representation Club sing songs in Yes. Yeah. In Spanish, and Tagalog, and Spanish. Last month and this month, they have had several musical performances right before their November break. Sunset Ranch Kinders serenaded their officers with their annual pop-up November sing-along. Their 5th and 6th graders will perform a winter musical assembly for the whole student body, and their 1st graders are getting ready to perform their annual Hawaiian Christmas musical before winter break. They are so grateful to celebrate their joy. Valley View Elementary has had a busy few weeks full of learning and fun. Their school completed their recent Raise Craze challenge and had students collectively complete over 2,100 acts of kindness over the course of 2 weeks. Their teachers appreciated collaborating with families during conferences to share their student progress and brainstorm ways to continue support their clubs to reach their greatest potential. Last week, their 2nd through 6th graders completed the MAP assessment, helping to show their growth over the past few months. Over these past couple of weeks, they've had several classes experience learning outside their traditional classrooms by attending a few off-campus field trips, and their music teachers coordinated opportunities for their younger students to see the 5th and 6th grade musicians perform in their music classrooms. Next week, they have Wayne Hukin, a magician featured on Discovery Channel, coming to share some cool connections between magic and science for a whole school assembly. Lots of great learning is happening at Valley View. At Brain, 5th grade held their annual Giving Thanks feast before Thanksgiving break. Each student brought a dish to share that is special to their family. They had over 100 students and parents enjoying their feast today. All of the student recipes and the stories behind them will be combined into a 5th grade cookbook that is given to each student. 1st grade at Brain is gearing up for their performance of the Polar Express on December 16th and 17th. TK students at Brain are performing a play, The Mitten, for their families at the end of the month. A few VAPA students in the 4th grade and 5th grade classes at Brain are participating in a Wyland mural contest after school. Wyland is the artist known for most of his sea creatures painted on the sides of buildings all across the world, and for his work to educate students and adults about water conservation and helping the planet. Students are learning about water conservation and how it affects the animals in the ocean. Some came up with their own ideas to enter the contest separately. Others came up with an idea that they are illustrating and painting on a large canvas with other students. They are working together to help understand the importance of water conservation and how art plays a role in communicating important information. They are also learning that the valuable lessons of working with others, valuing others' opinions, and sharing the responsibilities of work. There is a lot of ebbing and flowing with decisions and communication in group projects. It has been a lot of fun to see this progress. Students will know the results of the contest in late December. The 6th grade sponsored the Breen's 10th annual Sock and Undies Drive. The school will be donating 225 pairs of undies and 494 pairs of socks to the Mustard Seed School of Sacramento to help the homeless children in the area. The Quarry Trail Students Council has taken a leadership role in community outreach. They are currently organizing and leading their annual holiday toy drive in partnership with Toys for Tots. This initiative underscores their commitment to fostering empathy and community responsibility among their student leaders. Joyful sounds of the seasons are already filling up their halls. Their dedicated educators in transitional kindergarten and 1st grade are busy preparing heartwarming winter performances. These presentations provide an excellent opportunity for their youngest learners to develop confidence and share their talents with families just before their winter break. A significant and exciting benchmark for Quarry Trail is on the horizon. Their highly successful dual language immersion program continues to flourish. Their dual language team is currently gearing up for the highly anticipated 5th annual program lottery. They are proud to announce a program milestone. Next academic year, they will welcome their inaugural cohort of dual language students into the 4th grade, a true testament to the program's sustainability and success since its inception. Springview has been busy. Last Saturday, Springview Spirit Squad performed in the Roseville Holiday Parade. The dancers brought joy to all spectators. Also on Saturday, Springview hosted their 3rd annual craft fair. Students, staff, and parents filled the multi and breezeway with creative and festive creations. Go Eagles! At Whitney High School, their girls varsity cross country won their 4th consecutive D2 section title on Saturday, November 15th at Willow Hills in Folsom. Seniors Sophie Hutchinson, Addie Earwers, and Jane Landon have been on all 4 section championship teams beginning their freshman year in 2022. This 2025 team has posted the fastest team of all times of all, not only in school history, but in South Placer region history. Whitney hosted their first ever holiday story time. The students' favorite librarians from Springview, Sierra Elementary, Sunset Ranch, and Rucola read stories during lunchtime in the library. Students brought a blanket and enjoyed the nostalgia, while ROTC will honor their fallen heroes by placing remembrance wreaths on graves and speaking their names aloud on December 13th. Their advanced publication students recently attended the JEA NSPA National High School Journalism Convention in Nashville. Their 2025 yearbook earned 3rd place in the National Best of Show competition and an incredible honor among 5,312 attendees from 46 states and 8 countries. In the National Student Media Contest, 7 students placed individually, including 2 Superior Awards. And lastly, Rocklin High School would like to give a huge thank you to all of our students and staff that participated in the annual KCRA Kids Can Food Drive. Their donations make a big difference right here in our local community. Last night, Rocklin High School held their annual Thunder Galleria event in which nearly 200 elementary students from the Rocklin community had the opportunity to choose gifts that they can give to their loved ones during the holiday season. We truly thank all of our students, staff, and community members that contributed items or their time to make this great event once again. Thank you.
Wow. You earned that drink of water. That was impressive.
I already finished a bottle.
Isabella, thank you so much. That was amazing. And next we have comments from the board and superintendent. Trustees, do you have some comments?
Great job. So many good things happening. She's like, look how much I have. I'm like, it's a busy time of year. Yeah, it's for everyone. So, yes, great job. Just wanted to, thanks, Dad, for coming. Yeah. Only really wanted to share one comment really with the public because my colleagues all know, but we had an amazing opportunity to present at the California School Board Association Annual Education Conference last week, which this year was held in Sacramento. And Superintendent Stock and our Director of Academic Improvement, Beth Davidson, our Program Specialist, Curriculum and Instruction, Danielle Martling, get all the credit because it really was a really informative session. And after having been to dozens of these over the years, it was really unique because in the back of the room, as soon as we said we were done presenting, what do you think? 9 hands went up, and we allowed a lot of time for questions. And it was interesting because we were speaking about, math achievement and having a multi-year goal, and so many of the questions were, wait, tell me about how you guys do this, and tell me about this, because we have so many great things happening at Rocklin Unified. And I mean, I just kind of looked over like, we're really doing this, and it was such a proud moment. Superintendent Stock answered all those questions, and we just really, as a team, all have so much to be proud of. We had many people come up and say that was the best session I'd ever been to, and they were really, really positive. And it was great to be there and share some of the good things that we do for other school board trustees that are across our state.
Yeah, President Price is being humble. She was one of the presenters of that group. And I have to say, I was on a team call today with school board members throughout the state, really kind of more the central region. And they were discussing the great things they learned about the math improvement presentation by RUSD. And it just made me smile, just with appreciation, because one of the things that was highlighted was that it was really effective to get to see not just butterflies and roses and what's working, but the process that our USD went through with the board, with cabinet, with staff, and with parents over the course of the last 4 years to try things, pilot things, identify things that weren't working, adjust. And so I just have to say, President Price, you did a phenomenal job helping co-present in that. So thank you for doing that. I also had just some notes about not just the conference. The conference was really beneficial. Sometimes you go to places and there's workshops and you hear a lot of philosophical talk, but what do you bring back? And so I was really particular in some of the workshops I chose. So I apologize to Cabinet in advance because I'm coming with lots of ideas. No, we already do so many phenomenal things. I'm somewhat joking on that. But I will say there was just some great workshops on ensuring that our students are both college and career ready, right? Not choosing one or the other for them, but making sure that they're prepared for both. And we sit in a really sweet spot. There's a lot of districts in the state of California that aren't unified. And so I heard a lot of high school districts and elementary districts talking for what sounded like some of the first times about they're really struggling with having a unified plan. And I just left really proud of Rocklin, but also really excited for some of the future focus on this college and career readiness and these career pathways, and really focusing on achievement for all students. Our high performers, we want them to continue to grow. Our students that are struggling and have been struggling, we want them to grow. And so I really appreciated that. Part of that, I got to go a few days early as a delegate for the state, for the delegate assembly portion. And I did want to share with my trustees about that because they're talking about the possibility maybe of a resolution. The delegates throughout the state really want to focus this next year on closing achievement gaps. And they recognize that strategies might look different for districts. But how do we come together as school districts throughout the state to make sure that we are ensuring every one of our students have viable options for their future? And so they gave some good strategies on that. And they also talked about how do we work with the state. We have our dashboard that we're held accountable for, but how do we make sure that the state is accountable, that as they create mandates, that we ensure that they're funded and that we don't find ourselves in situations where these new mandates are given to us, which might be in some ways, decent mandates, but how do we actually implement them? And that takes funds, that takes advocacy at the state level. So I was honored to be able to speak out regarding unfunded mandates. And really trying to ask that we have some more accountability measures in place that as legislation continues to be passed, that it is fully funded if it's going to be implemented in our school districts. And so there was a lot of support throughout the state of other school board members. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more on that. I also wanted to thank Isabella. Wow, how many pages was that? Oh boy.
I think it was 6.
Oh boy. Well, I know that was a lot for you to read, but as a trustee, I really appreciate that because there were so many great things that you highlighted. And again, I love to hear not only what our districts are doing to support our students, but that we are putting a priority on creating well-rounded individuals that give back to their community. And I continue to hear that over and over. And so in vein of that, just my last thing is I just am consistently proud of our ROTC program and their Wreaths Across America this weekend. They have an event, and I know we've spoke about it before about being able to purchase wreaths, but I just think it's great when I'm out at city events and county events that we continue to see our students out there, literally leading the charge. And so they're going to be assisting at the event this Saturday at 12 noon if anybody is available.
Thank you. I feel like Isabella and others have covered a lot. I will say I agree. I think at CSBA, the theme was looking for accountability at the state level, and I think it was encouraging that for as different as all of our districts across the state can be, that there is kind of this unifying urge to work on that and to say, well, we are accountable for what our obligations are, so where is the accountability kind of at that level? And so I agree, that was excellent to hear. Just to echo, yes, for just our presentation, You all did such an excellent job. It was such a proud moment, and to see, because I don't know about the rest, but I've gotten pretty good at going through the catalog of all of the talks and kind of understanding, okay, this one would apply to Rocklin Unified, this one looks like it has some new content that might be interesting, but the way that they presented some real data, some real process, talked it through, you could just see that the questions asked were really like, okay, I can see this for my district. I think I could make this work. And wanting to follow up and get more information, I just feel like Rocklin Unified was a real leader there in this effort, and it was wonderful to see. President Hupp and I had a meeting also last week with our student board reps, including Isabella, and we were able to talk about some relevant topics, the e-bikes that we're going to be talking about in a little bit, as well as cell phone policy. And they really came prepared. They knew what we were going to talk about. They did some research on their campuses and brought that to the table. I think Associate Superintendent Flowers was happy to hear about their feedback on cell phone policy, and really it was reassuring to hear how it's working for students and how these things are coming into play. So I appreciated that. Otherwise, I think the craft fair you mentioned, my 8-year-old got all of her Christmas shopping done at that Springview Craft Fair, so those are all wrapped up under the tree right now. And then tomorrow morning, hopefully this meeting won't go too late, I'm going to be up early making breakfast burritos to take to Springview for their CJSF breakfast. So I'm really excited to celebrate those kids who are so committed to their academic achievement and to their community service. And then, yeah, looking forward to Wreaths Across America.
So great job, Isabel. Hopefully we'll get it down to less than 6 pages at some point.
Yeah,
right?
thank you so
Maybe
much.
2 or 3. I know, so much going on. And again, great to hear about all that. I'll say it's great to hear the concert and the performances tonight. We got concerts this weekend, so that's good to hear. I will give one shout out to the Whitney Girls Cross Country State Champion team. That was excellent, so good job for them. Continue to hang banners in the gyms. That's a great thing. So good for Rocklin Unified, Wreaths Across America. And then I will say, good job on the CSBA math presentation. It was amazing. On a side note, talked to a San Francisco Unified School District gal, traded cards, and I've traded emails, and she was really interested in stuff. So little humble Rocklin in Placer County, and people are reaching out. So I think that's a good sign that we're doing some good things here. So thank you for that.
All right, everything on my list has been covered, so I will just, I'll say I too really enjoyed meeting with our student board reps. They are amazing young adults and really represented their schools well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great meeting with you guys as well.
Yeah, I'm sad to be off that committee now, but we have to take turns. I told you, it's the
those
favorite.
Cookies were so good, by the way.
Good, yay. And also, I just want to say the math presentation was absolutely stellar, and I agree with those who said it was the best offered at CSBA. It was just really practical, and people could walk away with things to try in their district. So again, it was really a proud moment for RUSD. And then also I'm excited to be at Wreaths Across America this Saturday. I will be there. And I hope to see other trustees and RUSD students there.
I had one item additionally for my comments. I know we got to do a beautiful presentation earlier, but I just also wanted to include in my comments just profound appreciation for Trustee Price for your commitment this last year. It is no easy task to steer the ship of this incredible organization, and so I just wanted to make sure that you get the opportunity to publicly hear how appreciative we all are of you and the many, many hours that you put in behind the scenes, working on the agenda, working with the superintendent, and the way that you really worked really hard to make sure all of our voices were included. All of our desires for our district were included, and yet you are still raising an incredibly beautiful family and very involved in our community. And so I just want to make sure you hear that appreciation. And now I hope you get also a much well-deserved breath of fresh air. And with that, I also just want to show my appreciation for your willingness, President Hupp, to lead us this next year. I know it will be an incredible year with you at the helm. I think you bring some incredible experience yourself. I love that we are all uniquely here with different gifts, talents, and abilities and experiences. And I just appreciate your willingness to lead in this season and bring the experience you have as an educator and your involvement in many different ways in our community as well. So I look forward to this next year of supporting you in that role.
All right, any other comments by trustees? Okay, Superintendent Stock, do you have some comments you'd like to share?
Just to quickly re-echo a few things, but I feel important just to acknowledge, again, just also I want to thank Trustee Price for her leadership, and I do get the opportunity when a trustee is president to work extremely closely with them and in the work of the board, and so just to deeply appreciate her counsel and her leadership in the last year. And to President Hupp, look forward to working with you again. This is your second go-round as well, and so appreciate your willingness to serve in that role too. The thing I have to remark is on Isabella's report, if you didn't hear the countless opportunities that our kids have taken to give back to others, that's to me outstanding, that in a community that so many do have what they need, there are others that don't. And just you heard again and again and again how many opportunities our kids and families and staffs take to step up and make sure everyone has the best they can have from us. And I am just grateful for a community that really does that and even it does that again and again. And we, for example, had over, I think, 100 Thanksgiving dinners that we help provide. To families, even the whole community gets in. I think Chief Banks texted us on Monday saying, hey, we've got some bikes donated, additional bikes. How can we partner to get those out to kids? So just appreciate the generosity of our community. And with that, we will not be together until next year. And so I wish everybody a happy holiday and a joyful new year.
Awesome. Thank you, Superintendent Stock. Now we will move on to 8.1, the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are to be considered routine and will be enacted by one motion followed by a roll call vote. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless the Board of Trustees requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. Any items removed will be voted upon following the motion to approve the consent calendar. Does any trustee wish to remove an item from the consent calendar for separate discussion or action? Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Okay, first by Trustee Price.
Seconded.
No mic. Second by Trustee Counter. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Isabella Alvarez,
Yes.
Rochelle Price,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, 9.1, we now invite Jennifer Stahlheber, Deputy Superintendent of Business and Operations, to present item 9.1, action on the district certification of ability to meet financial obligation, first interim report, and budget revision.
Good evening, President Hupp, trustees, Superintendent Stock, and those that are joining us this evening. So this presentation details the Rocklin Unified School District's first interim budget report for fiscal year 2025-26. This is the first of two interim budget reports required annually by California Education Code 42103. The report provides an updated view of the district's financial condition as of October 31st, 2025. The budget reflects recent decisions at the state and federal levels, as well as necessary expenditures to meet district needs. So we're currently reviewing the results of 25-26 first interim, and this report uses financial assumptions that project out through fiscal year 2027-28. Key upcoming dates include the deadline for the governor's budget release on January 10th and the governor's budget workshop scheduled for January 20th. The district needs to continue monitoring costs and actively manage one-time funds throughout our processes until we see you again at second interim. So I'll start with our revenues at first interim, and this slide reflects the variance between what we presented at adopted budget versus what we know now here at first interim. And so you can see overall our revenues increased 4.82 million. Most of that was attributable to those other state revenues, which were those one-time dollars that were approved in the final budget act. And that was for the student support and professional development discretionary block grant, which some refer to as SPUDBUG, which is a funny acronym, but especially for school business people. So I just like to say it. We had a small increase in our LCFF revenues, and that was attributed to an increase in some of our special ed funds that come through the LCFF object code, but the rest was attributable to our unduplicated pupil percentage increase, and that's a 3-year rolling average. And so when we experience an increase, it increases our supplemental funds. We saw some changes in our federal revenues of $354,000, and that was adjustments in several of our federal funds. Our federal IDA, which are special education funds, we saw an increase there, and we also saw some slight adjustments in our other title programs. We saw a little decrease in our other local revenues, which are interest earnings and local donations. This slide represents just a breakout of all the revenue streams we have, and you can see the most significant revenue stream we have is our local control funding formula, and we talked about what that's made up of. That's those property taxes, and then state aid and the Education Protection Act, and that's 140, almost 141 million. The next, biggest is our other state, and it's only as big as it is this year because we are getting that amount in our one-time and the learning recovery, which was a repayment from prior year's reductions that they're going to repay over 3 years. This is the first of those 3 years. So this slide represents our expenditures, and we saw increases of 13.2 million, but don't be alarmed. Most of that is due to those one-time funds that the board committed for facility projects for our sites and for safety, and also for Whitney High School's field turf project that we had committed. So when we get to a later slide, you're gonna see that the committed funds have decreased, and that's because we now have them in budget as we're putting out bids for those projects and getting ready to start all the work to get those projects underway. We saw some slight changes in our salaries, and that was related to some increases in FTE and some savings due to vacancies. The reason you see increases in our salaries but the benefits reduce is because when we fill positions, not everyone takes health and welfare benefits, but we do budget it just in case. You can see books and supplies increased 3.2. A large portion of that is due to carryover, but the remaining piece is due to those safety funds. We had equipment that was purchased with the new camera installations that have been going on district-wide the past week or so. Technology has been extremely busy getting out to sites and getting that installed. We also saw some services and operating increases. Some of that is carryover, but the rest of that is related to that safety project. Those one-time facility funds, though, are sitting in capital outlay. So that's that next category where you see the 7.5. 5.6 of that is for the one-time for sites. 1.2 of that is related to the Whitney High School field project. The rest of that is just our other upcoming projects that we have with routine restricted maintenance. We usually have some large projects over winter break. We'll have probably some projects coming out in spring, and then we finalize through summer. We had a little tiny tweak to the other outgo, and that's just transfers between funds, typically indirect. And then there was some other decrease in indirect costs. And this represents our expenditures in the general fund, and you can see the largest portion of our expenditures come from salary and benefits. But this year, we have some other categories that have increased, but that's really related to one-time expenditures. So if you remove those one-time expenditures, this slide would look typical to most years because we're still tracking with our salary and benefits as we have in the past. So this is a general fund summary, and it projects a net decrease in our fund balance, but that was planned. We planned to spend those one-time dollars. We planned for the Whitney High School fill project, and so that's what's causing most of it. We also have planned expenditures for some of our restricted dollars that have been received in prior years. We still have a healthy fund balance, though, even after our committed funds and our restricted funds. We still have 9.2, and then we have some assigned funds and the reserve for economic uncertainty. In those committed funds is included those stabilization funds that the district committed to make certain that we were fiscally stable in the event of a downturn in the economy. We would have those funds to access if we needed to, and so that sits in that committed line as well. So if you compare it to adopted budget, we were at 23.9, and now we're down to 16.1. So the bulk of that is budgeting for the projects that we discussed already. And here's those components of that fund balance. So you can see all of our committed funds. We, because our total expenditures increase, those stabilization funds increased. It corresponds with that because it's a 3% set aside. Our textbook adoption, we look out over a 5-year span, and we had some adjustments to some of our textbooks, some of that based on projected numbers for enrollment. So we saw a slight decrease there. We budgeted those site discretionary and donation funds, which are always carried over every year when we close the books. And then we still have some of our other commitments ongoing, but you may see some adjustments come second interim, particularly under our one-to-one student device refresh. We are in that first year of a 4-year phase of refreshing our devices, and so you'll see that we'll probably tap into some of those dollars come second interim. We also have our attendance mitigation, and you see a decrease there, and that's because right now we are trending really, like our last numbers that came in, we're at 96.69 attendance rate. Now we do typically see it go down between now and P2, which is what we're funded off of, but because it's higher than we were in prior years, we increased our projection slightly to 96.10 in our LCFF calculator. So that's why you see a little bit of a difference. That mitigation is really us saying, if we were back to pre-COVID attendance rate, what additional funds would we have? And that's what that amount is. Our facility use and repair, you can see we budgeted a little bit of that, so it just came down slightly. And then our self-reassessment for SAMS. Last year we paid a reassessment at the end of the year, and so we don't believe we're gonna get one this year, but we do have that set aside because we know there's still a lot of cases that are settling. It might have been a topic at the school board conference, and so we have that committed there. And then you see the reduction for the Whitney Highfield turf. And then our district share of bus grant funded buses. And so that is in there and won't be expended until we get those buses. And right now we're not projected to get them until October of 26. And that's just that it's a long time to get those buses. We actually ended up having to change companies because the other company couldn't get them to them, get them to us by 2026 even. It was gonna push out even further. And so to meet the grant requirements, we needed to receive them sooner. So we have made that change. And then our settlement reserve. So that settlement reserve amount is for the other units that we have not settled with thus far. And just to remind you, that would be our certificated teachers, our certificated management, and classified management. And so we just have that committed because we know we're a Me Too district. We've already settled with several groups at 2%, and so we just have those funds sitting there. And then we have our regular assignments, and those are funds we carry over because we have to use them for a specific purpose, but they're not restricted. So they don't sit in that restricted pot. So we just assign them. Here's our multi-year projection. And so, of course, this year looks like a very large deficit, but we know that's planned for those one-time projects we've already talked about. And then when you look in those out years, you can see we have some additional deficits. If this was broken out so that you were looking at unrestricted versus restricted, you would see that 26, 27 currently
only reflects a deficit of right around 80,000. Now that's before we put in the remaining 2% salary increase for the other units. And so that will increase by that amount you see set aside, plus our step and column, which is approximately 2%. So just to give you kind of, when we come back at second interim, hopefully we will have settled and you will see that in here.
So just to be clear, in those out years, 26, 27, 27, 28, do we have any assumptions built into these numbers for additional compensation?
No.
Okay.
We
And do
just
we
have
have
what-
potential COLAs built in as assumptions for those years?
We do. Currently, though, we're using the COLA that we had before the LAO provided their report in November. So we still have the 3.02 for 26,
Which
27.
is a higher, and now it's
yeah,
lower.
and now it's coming in indicating that it's going to come in closer to anywhere between 2.4 to 2.5.
So really, those deficits we see are only going to grow pretty drastically depending on, okay, so COLA's taken into consideration, but at the higher amount, and no additional compensation is yet taken into consideration, okay?
It also takes into account the declining enrollment that is in our demographer report when they project out, and with some assumptions for reduction in staff, because we always right size here in Rocklin. When we see a reduction in students, we right size our staffing, and so that results in a projection of 10 fewer certificated in 26, 27, and 4 fewer classified in 26, 27.
So we need more younger families moving in. Okay, got it, thank you.
Yes. But you can see we still stay above the state required and the board's required stabilization amounts. And so even in that third year, we still have 4.78 that's completely unassigned, almost $10 million, or just over 9. So this slide I added, and it's not a normal slide, and it's actually looking at some 24, 25 expenditures. And so this was really just to provide some clarity and context to some information that had been shared publicly. And so we had seen some communication sent out that said that the district had spent almost $20 million on consulting contracts. They did end up amending that statement later and saying, oh, well, no, the consulting was a smaller amount. But I thought it would be really good to share this because hopefully the public sees this and sees all the things that go into that services and other operating expenditures. And so these are all the different items that are included in this category when you're looking at our total expenditures, which we, for the object code, we call them the 5,000s, right? Like we call certificated salaries the ones, classified are 2s, benefits are 3s, and so on. So these are our 5,000s. This represents all of them, and you can see that there's one piece of it that's professional consulting and other operating services, and that's that 5.65. If you go to the next slide, I break down just that, because within that consulting, we have other things where we code it very particularly. And some of it's defined by the state that we have to separate it, like legal costs have their own code, but it still falls into the category of professional and consulting services. Audit also falls in that category. But if you were to just look at, well, what did you actually spend on consulting? Well, our consulting for technology, we spent about $308. And if you wonder, like, well, what does that include? Those things are hardware and communication system parts and repairs. We did some clocks and speaker installation, some new cabling for some of those. We had some cameras that were replaced last year. We had a consult for our VMware. We had an emergency wireless service when we had some internet issues. We also had an electrical panel generator. Our VoIP subscription falls into that category. Our printer services fall into that category. So a lot of things make up just the technology consulting piece alone. But then if you go to our professional services, that $3 million, you're like, well, what's in there? What are all those contracts? So I took a look at that. And so there's a lot that goes in there. So that has our professional consulting services such as our NPAs. So when we have aid positions for our special needs programs and we can't fill them, because we are required to have that, we hire NPAs. And if you saw on the consent agenda, we had a contract tonight because we have some students that are new to our district that require one-on-one aids. And so far we haven't filled them. We're working on that.
It's also our Wellness Together, which is part of a grant that we have. So although we have funding, it still falls into this category. We have revenue that's offsetting it, but it falls in here. It includes our pest control, it includes towing services, it includes our EMS, it's at all the football games, it's considered a professional service. It's our chairlift and the inspections for fire and for the said chairlift. It's also our services from PCOE. It's our water damage mitigation. If you recall, we had some damage over at Rocklin High last year. To the theater, yep, and we had some mitigation, and that's considered a professional services. So at Turf Diagnostics, when we were working on the Whitney High School, and we realized, oh, it's past the point of repair, but we had brought in a team to do that original diagnostics. It's also weed abatement, tree services, flooring replacement. We pay for new teacher induction out of this category. We pay for our engineering services out of this category. Our vision screening, which we're required to do, comes out of this. Interpreter services, we bring in interpreters when we have an IEP and parents aren't English language speakers. It's for any certification. So when our drivers for transportation go for certification, those fees come out of here. So there's a lot of things that go into this category. And so I just wanted to provide some context, because I think, you know, there's a misnomer out there that, you know, government doesn't know how to spend public funds wisely. But we have a lot of responsibility, and there's a lot of things we do. And I think when you just look at that consulting, it sounds like, well, why are they paying outside people? They have all these employees. But there are so many things that we don't have that expertise that we have to reach out to, or that we're required to. When we pay a permit fee, it goes into professional consulting, just because that's the category the state requires that we use for it. So I just wanted to share that context so it's out there, and hopefully, you know, some of the public that maybe that bothered them, they see this and they go, oh, you know, that actually makes sense. So that's why I'm sharing that. It's something new. And if you have any additional questions, let me know. We'll go over it.
I have a question.
Yes.
How long have you been here?
Just over 2 years.
Okay. So I am someone who loves change, and one of the reasons why I love change is because I watched you come in, and it's a huge compliment to you, as a disruption of how we have typically spent money, and looking at ways, is this the best way to spend money? Are there some ways that we could save money? So I really, really appreciate that in a lot of huge variety of areas that you've looked at. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I appreciate that you appreciate it. Okay. So here we are at our certification, and we're going to have a positive certification because we are able to meet our financial obligations for the current and subsequent 2 years, and that's always what we want. And so next steps, we're going to submit that positive certification to the county office. We're going to maintain our reserve and continue to monitor all of our costs. We're going to wait for the release of the governor's budget. We're going to attend the governor's budget workshop and, of course, monitor those one-time funds. So any questions? No? Okay. Just ask the board to take action.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was really informative. You really covered everything. So is there a motion to approve the district certification of ability to meet financial obligation, first interim report and budget revision?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
first by Trustee Sutherland, second by Trustee Price. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Isabella Oliveras,
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you again, Jennifer. And now,
President Hupp, I'd just like to, as a kind of quickly, just acknowledge that, you know, that one of the things Jennifer's done beyond just the disruption was also really look at how we can develop our staff in the business office and really look at how we can empower them to even do their best, and really recreated a positive culture there. And as I see standing in the doorway, our director, who's just shy of you know, a year, I think a year plus in his role, and he leads a lot of our accounting team that helps develop all the background work related in here. So want to thank Mario DaCosta for his work as well. I know Jennifer does as well. So just wanted to acknowledge that whole other extra effort, and appreciate you letting me interrupt you.
awesome.
And thank you, and I apologize for failing to thank my team because I couldn't do any of this without them. They're really amazing.
Well, we thank your team as well. They do a great job. All right, so now we will ask Marty Flowers, Associate Superintendent of Secondary Education, to present action on Rocklin Unified School District e-bike, e-scooter use, and addition of Board Policy BP and Administrative Regulation AR 5142.2, Safe Routes to School Program.
President Hupp, Trustee, Superintendent Stock, thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to ask Chief Rustin Banks to please come up and join. Make sure he's still awake back there. I just truly appreciate his leadership and collaboration. I told him I was going to introduce him and bring him up as a partner in crime, and he said that's really not a very funny joke. So don't say that. So,
And yet you did.
Yes, I did. So with that, I come before you this night. We've been talking about this now for 4 months, and truly, with all joking aside, I appreciate Chief Banks and his leadership in this area, because I think we've had discussions about some of the concerns we have, and not only in Rocklin, but throughout the state of California and throughout the nation, e-bikes are a concern. So with that, just a quick overview from the November 19th meeting. We talked about the different types of e-bikes, the subcommittee work that we are asked to do, the options that we came up with, the focus on option number 2, and then that implementation plan and enforcement strategy, and then working with Chief of Communications Sandeep Dosanjh on communications. And then this is an action item that we'll be proposing new board policy and admin regulation. With that, I was asked to just include some pictures. And you can see this is actually pictures taken in front of Granite Oak School. A number of students ride e-bikes to school every day. And as we shared at the last board meeting, Dr. McDonald and I both did some data. And at Granite Oaks, they have nearly 200 bikes at that school every single day. So just wanted to share that. With that, the types of bikes that they have, this is information shared from Chief Banks' presentation back in, I believe, September. Class 1 is the pedal assist only with no throttle, can go a maximum of 20 miles an hour. Class 2, which causes some of the concern we have, it does have a throttle, no pedaling is required. It does have a max speed, however, a quick view on YouTube, and that can increase tremendously. Class 3, you can see the asterisk there. This is not necessarily an issue because there are already state laws in place that require Class 3 riders to be over the age of 16 with helmets. And then e-scooters and e-motorcycles, once again, that law applies to that as well. With that, the subcommittee did get together and we created 3 options. Option 1 was status quo, don't do anything. Option 2 was really in working in collaboration with Chief Banks to restrict those Class 2 e-bikes, which are the ones between the elementary and middle school that are causing some of the concerns. And then option 3 we looked at is to ban all e-transportation at elementary and middle schools. And as Trustee Sutherland brought up and President Hupp, it was great to hear from our student reps in that meeting, and they did kind of verify, and without getting too much detail, they did say that maybe they didn't always make the best decisions when they were in middle school. However, as they mature into high schools, and not Isabella, but I will say that once again, they were in agreement that sometimes in middle schools you don't make the best decisions. And there was a little confusion there about some of the high school kids thinking this applied to them. And I want to clarify that. And once again, we will continue through our communications to clarify that we're really looking at this proposal for elementary and middle school sites, not necessarily the high schools. Because once again, most of those kids do act more mature. And once again, those laws change when they get into that 16 years of age. So with that going on, we did focus on option 2 to restrict Class 2 e-bikes. Communications did go out the following day on November 20th, reminding parents, letting them know that this was something to take into consideration as we go into the holiday season. And then there were some additional questions there, and thank you, I believe Trustee Sadoff asked about legal counsel, and I was able to confirm with them, and then there were some slight adjustments to the verbiage, but we are able to move forward with this. And we also, as part of the subcommittee, went back and talked about, could we do something as far as similar to what we do at high schools by issue parking permits? And this is something, once again, we're going to be starting, hopefully, if approved. We'll be starting when we get back from Christmas. But that's something that we might grow into. For example, parking permits, they're sold at the beginning of the year. But that's definitely something. At this point, with the elementary schools and the middle schools, there's a little bit of a concern about capacity. How would we go about that? But that's definitely something that we can work on as we move forward. And then the other one was really to look at the possibility of expanding our authority, I would say, as far as making sure that kids follow those rules. And really, outside of the property of the school, we don't really have that option. But what we could do is at our elementaries and middle schools, they do a great job with PBIS, positive intervention supports, behavior intervention supports. And what we could do is really train kids that, you're not going to ride this vehicle, or this bicycle all the way up to the front of the school. Once you get on a school property, that's the time to get off the bike and walk that in, or a non-motorized scooter. You could do that and just walk that in once you get to school. So those are some things that we can look at as we proceed forward. And then the last thing is,
thank you for taking the time to really look into those options. I think they were really great ideas that I had gotten from parents, and so I really appreciate you looking into those more. And I think even the evaluating the expanding of the walking area of the bicycles, I think that's something we could possibly even relook at and maybe work with the city if we find that maybe the sidewalks, a possible expansion there. But I appreciate you taking the time to really look at the logistics of how that could possibly support more safe measures regarding transportation on our campuses. So thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Also at the last meeting, we talked about an implementation plan and enforcement strategies. Once again, from the very beginning, this is not about getting kids in trouble. This is about really truly providing a safe route to school. So with that, we would continue to educate in that grace period through December. Start coming back. Everyone's excited, but then once the holiday season's over, they come back. We would, through the month of January, continue to educate and give that warning phase. And we're not looking to enforce this policy, if approved, until February 2nd, at which time we would still go with some warning, some detention, and then hold those accountable in collaboration with Rocklin Police Department. And again, shout out to all of our SROs. They do a great job, and we really appreciate that partnership. And as Chief Banks promised, that partnership's going to continue. So looking forward to that. So next steps, staff comes before you tonight to ask trustees to take action on proposed new board policy and administrative regulations 5142.2, safe route to school. If approved, continue to work in collaboration with our communications department and our local police department to help educate all elementary and middle school parents and students, and then continue to schedule some of those assemblies about what safe routes to school actually means. So that concludes my presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Trustees, are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a few. Just wanted to, overall, of course, thank you for your work on this. I know we got to speak at previous meetings. I think it's really important that when we have our chief of police come to us and say, hey, we're seeing a concern, that we really engage in that conversation and that we try to find solutions. And so I really appreciate the solutions that the committee came up with. I know we've been able to have a little conversation, but I do want to clarify, there's been lots of conversation in the community, which is what we wanted. I appreciated the communications going out quickly after the last meeting, so we could hear a lot of feedback from the community, and I was able to really talk with a lot of individuals whose students own some of these Class 2 bikes, right? And going, wait, what does this mean, right? And I don't think anybody wants to give a child detention for riding a bike to school. That's not the goal here. That's not what we're looking at. And so I really think in being able to dialogue, I was able to really talk about that a lot, and saw incredible support and request actually for option 2. I did just want to mention option 3 has been mentioned on some of the slides as banning all e-transportation, and I think words are really, really important because they can get misconstrued really easily. And I know, my desire as a trustee is not to try to regulate e-bike usage out in the city. That's actually not my jurisdiction. My desire is addressing safety concerns that have been brought to me. They've been brought to me for some time on our safety committee. We've addressed them there. We've worked diligently to address this via education first to families and to students. We're now still continuing to see safety concerns, right? And so I do want to make clear that my desire is that what we're doing is a response to concerns and what we can do within our jurisdiction on our campuses. And so really what we're talking about is the storage of these bikes on our campuses. What a student does on a Saturday night out in the middle of city. I may have some recommendations for safety as a general community member to work with our youth. But really what we're talking about tonight, as I understand it, is not banning any form of transportation. It is more discussing the safety of what equipment is on our campus, and we have seen very unsafe situations with this equipment on our campus, and then also that including the storage of that on our campuses. And so as I understand option 2, I just want to make sure I understand it as us saying we are looking at the option of these class 2 for our elementary and middle schools not being able to ride on our campuses this equipment or store this equipment on our campuses. Now we recognize, or I recognize, this might have some farther reach, that some parents may not want to use that as a form of transportation at all for their student outside of school hours. That is between the parent and the student. I do think we have a responsibility for what happens on our campuses. So that's what I'm interested in participating in. Am I understanding option 2 correctly?
That is 100% correct.
Okay. Then, I mean, I am at a place, I want to be able to hear from everybody else, but I am at a place that I have heard from many in the community, and this is coming from an individual who does not like government getting involved in our business unless absolutely necessary. But I do believe when we're looking at the safety of elementary and middle school students, this has become enough of a safety issue that it's really critical that we take responsibility for what happens on our campuses.
I just want to thank both of you and the members of the subcommittee that helped to work on this. I feel really fortunate to be able to have been part of this, and we've seen in other areas that this has become an area of focus, but I do feel that we are kind of leading the charge here in our local area and in our community to come up with something that's practical, that's enforceable, that's respectful. And I really like the language, and I think that this looks great. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess same comments. I appreciate the work. I think it's well deserved. I think I'll speak for a lot of people in the community, and even for Chief Banks. It's frustrating that we were hoping the state would do something, of course, hoping that the county could do something, hoping that the city do something. At some point, like, there's a lot of state motor vehicle regulations and things that you're hoping to happen, but that takes a lot more time. So I think it's good that we have a policy like this. I could say, heard from similar community members, oh my gosh, what's my kid gonna do? But when you reassure them, hey, Saturday and Sunday it's open, have fun on the trails, please don't damage any of our parks, please don't do anything silly, but as they all say, kids will be kids. We have a nice pump track out there if you want to go ride around the area, have fun. But at the end of the day, I think it's a good step in the right direction. I can say just historically, from one of those kids in the skateboarding was not a crime generation, at some point, some silly kids do some stupid things and it ruins it for a lot more. So hopefully we can get past this, and thank you for being out there. Thank you in advance for your team and the SROs for stepping up and being out there on campuses. And I think communicating as we will, it should be pretty good, but I'm sure we'll get feedback and we'll work through it as we always do.
I just want to comment. I'm happy with this policy and where I've landed on it. Just some first draft thinking on these next steps for you and Dr. McDonald, that as we look at assemblies, I just have an ask that we're creative, maybe for looking for an opportunity to have some student engagement and buy-in. Not that we're going to get it from all kids, right? But every one of our middle school kids have been in their car with their mom or dad, right, and seen some pretty crazy behavior. And so I just think if we could look for some student buy-in and engagement, maybe we could move the needle a little bit further with those kids. And also that also leads to safer drivers as well. So just an idea, suggestion.
It'd be great if we had some videos to show of some of that silly behavior so that the kids could see what we see. Yeah. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve Rocklin Unified School District e-bike, e-scooter use in addition of board policy BP and administrative regulation AR 5142.2 Safe Routes to School program?
So moved.
All right, first by Trustee Sutherland.
Second.
Second by Trustee Price. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Isabella Olivares.
Yes.
Rochelle Price.
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff.
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland.
Yes.
Derek Counter.
Yes.
Julie Hupp.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you both again so much.
Guys, and I didn't even get an opportunity to greet you tonight, so congratulations, and thank you, President Hupp, all of the trustees, Superintendent Stock, and by the way, Isabella, that was amazing.
Yeah.
But again, it is, I've said it before, it really isn't lost on me. Thank you guys for your courage. Thank you guys for your leadership. We really are making this community safer, and I appreciate the partnership. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, and next for 9.3, Hannah Anderson, Director of Innovation, School Programs and Accountability, will present action on revised board policies and administrative regulations, BPAR 5145.7, AR 4319.12, BP 5146, BP 5145.9, BPAR 5125, BPAR 5125.1, and BPAR 1250.
Tired just listening to all of that.
Starting to feel like Isabella over here.
Right? That's right.
So,
Good evening, President Hupp, trustees, Superintendent Stock. As part of the federal program monitoring review process, the CDE has looked at several board policies and administrative regulations. As you know, this is a regular part of the review process. On November 19th, I brought before you board policies and administrative regulations associated with agenda item 9.3 for your review. Tonight, I bring these policies back before you for action, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I also want to take this opportunity publicly to thank you for all of the many hours you've spent reviewing these policies, and also to thank staff and principals for all of the many hours they've invested in this federal program monitoring process. This is a heavy lift for everyone involved. It is a large team effort, and I am just sincerely appreciative of everyone's hard work in this review, and we're almost there.
Thank you so much. Are there any board comments or questions?
I was just looking for two of the points that we discussed last meeting, clarification on in the board policy 5146 on educational rights holder. I know we changed it so it says parent/guardian/educational rights holder.
Correct. That is on page 3.
Yeah. Who would be an educational rights holder? What is the definition of that?
Thank you for the clarification there. So for our foster youth students, they may have an educational rights holder who is not their biological parent and also may not be their guardian or caregiver. It might be a court-appointed student advocate. It would be someone that the court appointed, and we actually have court documentation that states that this is their educational rights holder. We have a JV 535 on file in our student information system that says we can, they are the educational rights holder for that student.
Great, thank you so much. And then also on board policy 5125, I had a question last time, and I know you were looking into it. How do we have access to a student's social media?
I'm going to grit that one out, but yes, I did have the opportunity to dive in and do a bit of research in this area. So we typically only utilize, I'm going to actually find it here. We would only utilize a student's social media in the case of this policy for any type of investigation regarding a disciplinary action. What this section is stating is that if we were to keep that social media as part of the student's permanent record, that we were to keep that on file, we would need to initiate as a school district a program that would need to be brought before trustees here at an open public meeting, and parents would need to have the ability to come and speak on behalf of that. At this time, if we do collect social media as part of a disciplinary action, that social media is not kept as part of the permanent record of that student. So those social media are only used in the process of the disciplinary investigation, and then they're not part of that student's record.
Is that what CSBA is suggesting?
What CSBA is really, in a sense, neutral on that. What they're saying is in response to the Ed Code, is if you are going to keep student social media, again, then you have to bring it as a separate action by the board so that the community would have a chance to comment on the fact that district is, if you will, keeping or archiving social media from students.
Okay. Thank you, and thanks for answering so many questions last meeting as well, and for all of your time. This has been a huge project, and we appreciate your work on it.
So can I ask, now I'm having questions about this that I didn't know I had. So does that, so when I'm thinking about like a student's CUME file, and you may have a student where there was disciplinary action and they would have, say, like a work sample, if there was a threat that was written on something, and that becomes part of the file. So what you're saying then is with this language, if something like that were found and it was located on social media, that would not be able to, because I think what we see sometimes with threats and things like that is that there's a lack of communication between different, like say if the student were to move or go to a new district or something of that nature. So sometimes having that information can be really critical. And so I'm just wondering why, if CSBA is neutral, like why that's seen as a separate
Well,
issue.
the CUME folder is actually different than, say, like a disciplinary folder at a school. So,
Okay.
so what we would do, put in a CUME, piece would be student was suspended, violation of ed code, pick the number. And so what we've put in the CUME folder, the official record, is the determination we've made in the investigation and the outcome of that, which could be a disciplinary consequence. If there's no consequence issued, then we don't make any recording in the record. So we don't even currently, even before social media, we wouldn't have said, put evidence in a student's CUME folder of, here was the stolen merchandise, or here was the threat you made in a letter. We would never put those types of evidentiary documents in a student's CUME folder. What we would just do is note the student violated ed code XYZ on this day, and that is in the official record. But because if you can imagine, if it's not like a police like evidence folder on like a crime scene where you might have all these evidence factors. So it's used for the investigation, determination made, noted in file. So we currently wouldn't keep for a student, say, back the the plagiarized test, or say the threatening note from 3rd grade and now they're in 10th grade. We don't accumulate that type of evidence. It's used, and then we do communicate with parents whenever there's a disciplinary procedure and a finding made, so parents are aware. And so that's where, in the terms of social media, just like any other type of evidence, we don't feel the need to keep that once we've concluded the investigation into that. So really the social media kind of acts like any other type of evidentiary pieces.
Additionally, in the regulation 5125 student records, it does outline what we can and cannot keep related to social media records, and incidents of impacting student safety where a direct threat would be made. We can maintain that as part of a record. That wouldn't go into our student information system, but to Superintendent Stock's point, it does outline very clearly for administrators what they can and cannot keep in the 3rd to the last page of the regulation.
Any other comments or questions?
I appreciate sensitivity I noticed in the crafting of these to really try to highlight or include the role of the parent, specifically in the access to student records. I went specifically there to look for that. I see that there. I appreciate that. I did have 2 that really kind of caught my eye. One, policy 5146, which is the married pregnant parenting students. I understand that I see in that there is a section about if a student is married before the age of 18, they're emancipated, and therefore they have the right to their records independent of their parents. But if a student is pregnant but not married and under the age of 18, is there a clear call out that parents are notified of that and included? At what point does that change for parents, I guess, is what I'm wanting to make sure we notify parents of.
Is there a particular part of the policy? I just want to make sure that I'm looking directly. Otherwise, I may need to defer to my colleague, Dr. McDonald, and see. This policy is, as it relates to the right of the student who is pregnant or parenting. So to my recollection, this policy does not include parent notification of a student who discloses to a school official that they are pregnant. That is not included in this policy, but would be included in other policies related to non-discrimination of students and parental notification.
Okay, so it could be housed there, so I could
Yes.
revisit that policy if I would like to. Okay, I just thought that was an interesting one. I noticed on here that it says that parents are to be notified annually, that there are certain rights that may be afforded to a student if they're pregnant and a minor. How do we notify parents of that? Is that like in that standard, like the multiple pages that you kind of initialed the lines, or how do we actually notify parents of that?
Dr. McDonald, is this policy included in our district's annual notification?
I don't believe it is.
I don't believe it is either.
And you can, of course, get back to me on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at this, and what I see is amended and changed in here, as I see on the Excel spreadsheet or the graph, the table that you gave us shows that this is due to changes in law, so it doesn't look like we're adding anything in addition. I just wanted to make sure that we are notifying parents of that, just so that way they're aware.
Two clarifying questions. One, were you asking if a pregnant student under the age of 18 has different rights to their records? Was that a question?
Well, I think it does say in this that they do have some, which afforded to them by state law. But if that's the case, it says in here that the parents are to be notified annually that could be the case, and I'm just wondering how we notify parents.
Okay, yeah, we can get back to you on that.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. And then the other one, which, I mean, these are, of course, really important topics to be discussing, right? And so I don't take light. Some of this content is kind of heavy content. But the sexual harassment, the AR 5145.7, I just noticed on there that the section of examples of sexual harassment has been struck out. And I wasn't finding that housed somewhere else, unless you can point me to it. And I just was wondering if you could give clarification of who determines. I see the definition in state law of sexual harassment, but it is very vague. And so how is this actually implemented, and how do we actually operate with this AR in our district?
I am going to answer that question, but I am going to jump back for a second because, yes, we do notify of the parenting and pregnancy policy in our annual notification. That is what that policy is updating, is to say annually we notify parents of this. We did also, for this federal program monitoring item, provide them our annual notification.
Perfect. So that is where that's housed in the
our
notification.
annual notification. Okay.
Perfect. So you save having to get back to me. Perfect. Thank you for that.
I'm switching gears.
No,
between
I'm
all
glad
of
you
them.
found that really quick. I assumed it was somewhere. I just hadn't recalled seeing that, and I just want to make sure that I highlight that for parents, that they're engaging in conversations with their children.
Thank you. I appreciate that. To your question, so the section that is titled Examples of Sexual Harassment, it was omitted because it is not required by Ed Code, but this section could easily be added back in, as it provides great amount of clarity and examples to students and staff in the community of what is some very specific examples of what is meant by the definition of sexual harassment, which all does come out of the law. It's the Title IX definition of sexual harassment. So including these examples, I think, especially in the policy that were previously there, it says, and not limited to. So it's not a finite list. And I do think that knowing that this policy is shared in our annual notices, I do think that it would provide clarity for students and administrators dealing with incidents of sexual harassment on campuses, to be able to have some tangible examples of sexual harassment. So
I mean,
it
it's
was omitted
heartbreaking to
because of
read,
the-
right?
yes.
Like, of course, I don't know that I want to see that in print, but I want to also be clear how we are identifying what we consider or what is considered sexual harassment. And so I do think in an AR, specificity is helpful. I read through those. I would hope none of those things are happening, and I would hope that they're addressed if those things are happening. Number 12, specifically electronic communications, including cybersexual bullying as defined under BP 5131.2. So I just didn't know if there was maybe a rationale that I was missing of why we should strike that out. I just get a little leery when we leave things a little too open-ended and vague, that there's not clear opportunities for conversation and addressing behavior. And something like this, maybe a parent sees number 6 or number 9 and goes, oh, I should have a conversation with my child about that. Thoughts from my colleagues?
I am in agreement to restore that section because, like you're saying, you hope it doesn't, but it actually, these things do happen. So, I agree. I think for anyone who would want to reference this to see if there's an area of concern or something that needs to be pursued, that would be helpful.
I also agree. I had asked Hannah some questions about this policy because when that struck out, it made some of the other things a little confusing. So I think adding that back in is a good solution to really make it clear and precise.
And if there's been a change in law of classification of sexual harassment, I wasn't aware of that, if we needed to update that language or...
The updated language is at the beginning of the regulation. Sexual harassment is a form of sex discrimination. That paragraph is in red there, but that is all under, all of the information that is provided in this policy is that legal definition, and that's where aligning to including items in the policy and the regulations that are in Ed Code or in other regulations, we had originally omitted the language providing specific examples, but including in the administrative regulation does provide administrators and students a lot more clarity, especially because this particular policy is required to be given to staff, is required to be given to students and parents annually.
I think it just gives clear training and understanding. So I would like that restored. And there was one other item, which if that's restored, I think now it addresses my other concern I was going to say. But the second paragraph, I just was surprised to see electronic struck out. When it's discussing sexual harassment concerns, unwanted verbal, visual, physical conduct was all left in, but electronic was struck out. And I didn't know if there was a change in law that I was unaware of, that electronic sexual harassment is shouldn't be addressed. Although if we're going to restore the 12, number 12 does speak to electronic communication. I just thought we've had previous instances where there were concerns in our community, and I just think the more clarity we can give in an AR, the better.
Was there a reason why it struck out?
That paragraph just to specifically align to the Title IX definition of sexual harassment, but there would be nothing that would preclude us from keeping electronic in the regulation.
I agree.
I'm looking to the policy, though, to see if it would be in both areas. And on the...
And of course, we're not saying, right, that it's the same automatic consequence for every single one of these. We're just saying we recognize these are concerns that we have and that they are not behaviors that we expect as a district, and we do expect them to be addressed. And so unless there's been a change of law, I do think it's appropriate if we are notified of sexual harassment via an electronic piece of equipment, we have a responsibility to investigate that just like we would any other form of harassment.
So I'm hearing to, on page 1, leave in electronic, and then on page 2, restore the entire section on examples of sexual harassment.
That's correct. Unless for some reason when you guys go back, there's a law change that forces a verbiage change, I would prefer that.
I think that's consistent with what we've done in the other policies too, is we've kept electronic in there for bullying and other policies.
Thank you. I think the benefit of our ARs is being as clear as we can be on them. Our board policies are more general, and our ARs being very clear, this is what we expect. So thank you so much. Those are my main concerns.
We agree.
All right, excellent. So is there a motion to approve revised board policies and administrative regulations, BPAR 5145.7, AR 4319.12, BP 5146, BP 5145.9, BPAR 5125, BPAR 5125.1, and BPAR 1250.
So moved.
First by Trustee Price,
Second.
second by Trustee Counter. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Isabella Oliveras,
Yes.
Rochelle Price,
Yes.
Tiffany Sadoff,
Yes.
Michelle Sutherland,
Yes.
Derek Counter,
Yes.
Julie Hupp.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannah, and thank your team. We know they are working very hard to get all these done and truly doing a fantastic job. That is really an amazing amount of work. Okay, and seeing no public comments, our board bylaws require 2 trustees to place an item on the agenda. Trustees, do you have any items to discuss for consideration on the pending agenda? No? Okay. In that case, the meeting is adjourned.